Here's the best though. My wife really appreciates it. It's her birthday today. And we were supposed to be yesterday. I don't make it wrong to get her to Toy Story 2 or movie today. I'm sleeping in PSG.
Yes, it's not your first time sleeping.
It is not my first time on the couch, but I don't think I'm alone in the house.
I'm sure you did. I can get out of here late.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday was blue today.
The background. I just kept introducing myself last night.
No. Yeah, I didn't tell you. I think your face, you know, it's space.
Oh, really?
We'll figure it out.
Oh, that's true. We're taking the whole row off. I don't think she'll ask all those. Jeff did it while I was in another meeting that I just reviewed it last night. That's my only credit to the Jeff did 98% of the work on this.
You don't need to sit down and feel I'm still hanging out. We got everybody here.
Perfect. Thanks, man. I'll answer. I have talked to them, so okay, but I just thought it was funny that they were really do it, but they hadn't done it. Yeah. We're essentially responsible.
Yeah. I'm going to come back and talk to the guys who started. I'm not going to. It's fascinating.
Pretty smart. You're good. I just got to stand a little bit. Sit down for it.
Just take my folder out of the box.
I'll try not to sell it.
Might be my new definition.
Good morning, everyone. I will now call the August 19th, 2026 San Diego County Board of Supervisors Land Use Legislative Meeting to order. Brian, please call the roll for today's session.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Government Staff. Supervisor Anderson. Here. Supervisor Desmond. Here. Chair Pro Tem Geary.
Here.
Vice Chairman Government Staff.
Here.
And Chair Lawson Freeman.
So before we begin this meeting, I want to take a moment to address some House rules. Public engagement is the cornerstone of transparent and accountable government. And these Board of Supervisors meetings are one of the primary venues where all San Diegans can make their voices heard. The county is committed to a work environment that is free from unlawful discrimination and harassment, including sexual, racial, religious, age, disability, or any other form of discrimination or harassment. Under the board's rules, speakers are not allowed to use loud, shouting, threatening, impertinent, slanderous, profane, or abusive language to any member of the board, staff, or the general public. Additionally, all remarks and questions must remain on topic during the duration of the speaking time and must be addressed to the board and not to county staff. Any speaker who engages in comments that break these rules will be issued a warning. After one warning, you will be asked to leave the chambers for the rest of the meeting. Finally, speakers threatening violence may be reported to law enforcement and removed from the meeting. This is a space for community engagement, deliberation, and progress, not for harassment, violence, and hate. We will now proceed with the closed session report. Council, is there a report for yesterday's closed session?
Thank you, Vice Chairman Government Staff. Board of Supervisors met in closed session on August 18th, 2026 from 5:54 p.m. to 7:25 p.m. All board members were present. The board took the following reportable actions. On item 33A, the estate of Dominique McCoy versus County of San Diego et al. By a vote of 5-0, the board ratified County Council's decision to appeal the district court's ruling on summary judgment denying qualified immunity to 2 county employees. On item 33C, Marcus Boyd versus County of San Diego et al. By a vote of 4-0, with Chair Pro Tem Geary recused. The board ratified County Council's decision to appeal an adverse verdict in a jury trial. On item 33H, Voice of San Diego versus County County of San Diego. By a vote of 5-0, the board authorized County Council to refrain from appealing Superior Court's decision granting a written petition in a case involving the California Public Records Act request. On item 33I, by a vote of 4-1, with Supervisor Desmond voting no, the board authorized County Council to initiate litigation. Particulars about the litigation will be disclosed to any person upon inquiry after litigation has formally commenced.
Thank you very much for that report. We will now proceed with non-agenda public communication. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but not on an item that's on today's meeting agenda. The only action that the board may take is referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Under the board's rules, the speakers can only speak once per meeting for non-agenda public communication, either at yesterday's session or today's land use legislative session, but not both. Speakers may select which session to address the board at their own convenience. To better facilitate the meeting, for non-agenda public comment, we do have 5 speakers in person and 5 speakers by phone. The rest of non-agenda public communication will be heard at the close of today's session. Additionally, in accordance with board rules, in order to ensure timely completion of today's agenda, for any discussion item with 10 or more speakers, individuals will have 1 minute to share their opinion at the chair's discretion. A reminder that according to Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments. And a final reminder, according to the board's rules of procedures, audience members shall not whistle, clap, stomp, feet, or do anything that disrupts the proceedings. If you disrupt the meeting, you'll be given 1 warning. After that, you'll be asked to leave the chamber for the remainder of the meeting. Ryan, can you call the speakers for non-agenda public comment?
Thank you, Vice Chairman Gary Scott. We do have 19 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 9 individuals in person, and 10 requested to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Go ahead and begin with those in-person speakers, and we'll randomly select the first 5 speakers in person today. All remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. As your name is called, if you can please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the audio record. Go ahead and invite the first 3 individuals, Gina Duffy, Kathleen Lippett, and Dorothea Flanagan. Can you please come down and line up on the arrows at the podium? Then you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good morning, supervisors and staff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today and for your leadership in protecting public health in San Diego County. My name is Jean Duffy. I am a 34-year resident of unincorporated San Diego County, and I'm here on behalf of the Lakeside, the Mountain Empire, the Spring Valley, and the Julian Community Collaboratives, as well as the many residents I've spoken to who encouraged the county to adopt a smoke-free outdoor public places policy. This type of policy is urgent and valuable to protect our unincorporated rural communities from the dangers of breathing in tobacco and marijuana smoke and vape aerosol, being exposed to environmental toxins and tobacco product waste and destructive wildfires. Cigarette smoke contains more than 7,000 dangerous chemicals, and anyone exposed breathes in at least 70 cancer-causing chemicals. E-cigarettes do not just release harmless water vapor. When a person exhales a vape, they release an aerosol containing ultrafine particles of nicotine, carcinogenic chemicals like propylene glycol and formaldehyde, and heavy metals like nickel and lead. Bystanders who breathe in these fine particles absorb these toxic substances deep into their lungs, causing asthma attacks and constricting arteries, increasing cardiovascular stress. None of us should be exposed to dangerous chemicals when we walk on the sidewalk, at farmers markets, or when eating on outdoor patios. Smoke-free policies are also effective tools to reduce litter and pollution from toxic tobacco product waste, and they reduce wildfire risk. An average of 44 wildfires a year are started from tobacco use in California alone. The state has experienced $18.7 billion in property damage from wildfires over the past 5 years. Residents of our unincorporated areas are struggling to pay increased homeowners insurance or are unable to insure their homes at all because of wildfire risk in our county. I have 2 friends, one in Alpine and Lakeside. who have to move because they can't afford outrageous high-risk homeowners or state-backed fallback policies. Policymakers throughout California have passed legislation.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Dorothea Flanagan. You pretty well know me. I've been coming here with oversight in the 5th District, North San Diego County. This is an ongoing issue with the Code Enforcement Department, where the last time I spoke with Sophia, approximately 6 weeks ago, she thinks her job is to interpret the law. It is not her job to do that. Others that know more about traffic and roadways have studied that, and that's why the code was put together. I'm talking specifically about 2636 Gopher Canyon Road, where people came in, put 200 feet of chain link fence right into the berm, anywhere from 1 foot to 4 feet from the berm. That doesn't happen anywhere in the United States that I've ever seen. And now I'm hearing nothing. She said, well, her reasoning was, well, is there enough room for people to walk down the road? That's not the issue for her to do that. I explained setbacks to her. How many feet back from the side of the road, the middle of the road, sometimes it's the side of the road, that you can't just go install a fence without a permit and put it wherever you feel like it. Cars don't have much leeway to swerve and get out of there. Please do something about your code enforcement department. They don't know code compliance and they don't care. They think it's funny. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. And as the next speakers coming up, I'll call the final 2 in-person speakers for the morning session, Javier Perita and allegedly author.
Good morning, Robert. My name is Kathleen Griffith. As a public health researcher and consultant and community advocate, I have worked in communities around the city of San Diego and the county for over 20 years. I help to advocate community members and raise their capacity to be able to have a say in the policies that government imposes upon them, because it affects their lives, their quality of life, their health, their safety, and their investment in their community. It troubles me that the county there seems to be a disconnect between the addictive drug, marijuana, that they seem to want to promote in the county. And we have provided information and research about the harms of this drug, and especially given that it is not just a normal plant that people think of as 40 years ago. It is a hybridized and genetically modified plant that was created to maximize THC. Just in one of the items is an increase of more than 6,000% in pediatric exposures to cannabis in the United States. And mostly, that is under the age of 6 to 12 years old. The rise is temporarily associated with changes in federal cannabis policy that began in 2009, but because of the negative effects on children, public policy should be considered. And we certainly shouldn't be creating more opportunities, more access, more commercialization, more promotions, and more advertising. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Next speaker. And then we won't be hearing from allegedly Audra this morning, so we'll go to the next speaker, Doreen. Doreen Sinchenberg.
Good morning. I am Rita Javier, senior with existing medical condition and victim of ceramics kiln toxicity since 1997. My late husband, Harold Barber, was one of the original residents and stood as father figure of the owner of the business, which was located, constructed, and operated in 1984. He fell down in our backyard and broken his lips in 2011 and passed away February 2012. I remember a world always wild in the backyard. Stay away out there. He was the ceramic kiln emission. I have no idea about poison gas emission.
Thank you.
Because of this.
We'll hear from our final speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
You may approach the podium. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dorian Gold, and I'm here.
Can you
Like someone
raise the mic? Yes, sir. Thank you.
someone will care. So I want to bring again to your attention that my family is blasted with chemical poison, secret gases by the drug dealers who moved next door after we complained about their night. 5 years old, I know, just California just little we hear that they are protected by high level of officers, corrupt officers in Virginia, in the sheriff's department. They are not only don't do anything, but they arrested me for calling the sheriff's department and asking for help. If you don't believe me, you may believe that the police.
I would highly recommend that you stop calling and making up stories about your neighbors. These are all being documented. It's not fair to your neighbors. It's not fair to our dispatchers. It's not fair to our deputy sheriffs. If you have any questions, you're welcome to give us a call back. You're going to get me all night. You're not going to speak with anyone else. Have a good night. Yes,
Yeah, so I got some rest the next day, but that day I couldn't because of the gases. They continued this harassment every day, especially at night. The gases that I have no idea what they are, and most likely from the symptoms, they relate to gases used by the law enforcement for crowd control. This reminds me about the dark days of apartheid when people were kicked out of their houses because a group of people, in this case Mafia of El Capone, believes they are above the law. This also reminds me about the dark days of Auschwitz, in which people were sickened, were gassed out because a group of people believe they are above the law. I'm not sure how to express with more stronger words than this.
Thank you.
Son.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone, and again, in accordance with the board's rules, we'll be hearing from the first set of callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted, and we'll hear the recording now until you begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Real quick, Madam Chair, if we could get someone to just spoke his address.
Sure. If you wouldn't mind giving your address to the clerk, right there, raise your hand. Look right there.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sure. And all the information is with Mr. Office.
Thank you.
Kenny Charles. And good morning, members of the board. I'm here representing one of 5 owners in Rayford Drive in Escondido, California. Our family has been affected by an easement that remains on property as a result of an administrative or recording error. Government Code 51057 and 51085 says you cannot accept an open easement without a contemporary 60-day general plan consistency report. The county accepted our easement in 2003 with 0 report. We are asking the county to review the complete history of this matter and help us finally resolve it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
My name is Gordon Finn, and I want to talk about something that intersects with land use and public safety. We have a lot of crime in San Diego County, and a lot of crime needs to need for more jails. So I propose creating a prison camp in unincorporated San Diego County for training. They violate our laws. They beat our women in sports. They creep on women in bathrooms. And the sheriff needs to get tough on these trained sexual freaks before our county falls. We need to stop this scourge. That's why we need the prison camps and great conversion therapy centers. We need to stop the trained sexual menace from taking over San Diego County like they took over LA and San Francisco. I hate training so much. And thank you for letting me speak and for respecting free speech.
We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. I'd like to continue with the comments that I began yesterday when we were addressing consent item 5 regarding the acceptance of funding, $2.3 million it was, to assist with Black infant health and the statistics that went with it. I shared with you my personal experience of representing CTA to the county's infant immunization initiative. When we looked at the rates here in San Diego County and the rates in Tijuana, they had a higher immunization rate, and they were concerned. It was interesting. This is a different perspective 30, 40 years ago. And so we were looking at what our infants needed, and we wanted to see what was affecting infant health. And we found that it didn't have so much to do with gender as it does with social economic level. And this matters because you put different solutions in place for those problems associated with social economic issues. I had begun this conversation because I then had several years later an experience with the adjudication process, the arrest and adjudication, and eventually, in this case, the loved one went to jail regarding a drug crime. And I found then, going through the process with my loved one, that it was not about race, but it was way more about social economic income level. And I think it's important for us to realize that when we're making programs and coming up with solutions, we look at what's really causing people to be adjudicated and ending up in prison. In the case of my loved one, it was originally to intercede with his marijuana sales, but because in the state of California, they were not putting anybody in jail 30 or 40 years ago, even then, for marijuana,
We'll go to our next caller. caller is Paul Yu. Your device might be muted. You there, Paul?
Okay. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead and begin your comments.
Okay. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Paul Yu, and I'm here today representing one of 5 affected owners. And Danny Charles spoke early this morning, and I'm the second in sequence. We filed a verified hybrid petition for recommend a declaratory release and quiet title in San Diego Superior Court. We did not want to sue, but your legal office closed our case without investigating. That was a year ago. I submitted a court claim last year, and they closed the case, and then I resubmitted a demand letter in July 25 this year, and I have not heard anything since then. So we have no choice but filing a court case. And nevertheless, this board has a clear choice today to save taxpayer money and avoid an embarrassing judicial defeat. You have the immediate legislative authority to voluntarily vacate void easement. We are asking this board to direct town council to draft a resolution of vacation to resolve this grave error voluntarily. Now, citing the legal grounds for this, your clerk cited a blanket board resolution from January 7, 1992, completely bypassing the mandatory.
Thank you. Your time is up. You'll go to our 5th and final speaker.
Good morning to the board of members. My name is James Hawley. I am here representing one of the 5 owners of the same property that was just discussed in the prior speaker. The history of this dates back to 1991. The court approved these actions on this property without proper documentation and a record of what was going on. We have these open spaces, easements that are imposing on our property, and this unresolved issue is going to end up in litigation. The property and for the property, we believe historical documentation demonstrates the easements is no longer remain in effect. Additionally, it is a massive fire hazard that affects each and every owner here, and because we're not able to do anything about it, and it increases our insurance rates every month. So please consider removing the open space easement off of our properties. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Chair Lawson, remember that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. And again, just as a reminder, all remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Okay, thank you very much. We now proceed with the formation of the consent agenda. This today is only items 1 through 2. All items on the consent agenda are routine and will be acted upon in one motion. And we'll have public comment after supervisors vote or any comments and anything they'd like. So, Vice Chair Monson-Lista, any comments or items?
No, I'm supporting that whole move to consent.
Thank you. We have a motion by the Vice Chair and second by the Chair Pro Tem. Any comments or anything to pull? Okay. Supervisor Anderson?
I don't this time for answer.
Okay, Supervisor Dozen?
Nothing to pull and no comments.
Thank you so much. We'll now begin the public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. Remember, we do have 9 total requests to speak. 3 people requested to speak in person and 6 requested to speak by phone. For any individuals that requested to speak on the side by phone, please dial to the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the by stating your name for the record. I'd like to invite forward all three individuals, Kathleen Lippitt, Cesar Javier, and allegedly Audra. Also, please identify which items on the consent calendar you are speaking about.
Cesar and Purita, the same victims of pollution. 1.1, first responders expected, City District 8, City Imperial Base, region, state, federal. Justice delayed, justice denied. Thank you, Supervisor Steve, in joining us as the City College District Board of Trustees. We were expectant, excited to hear the pronouncement. City colleges, please make a curriculum or program to train people to clean the mess of the border pollution and cure, care, feed, shelter our San Diegans. We were there, Mom, also to ask, abate, and move that polluting facility or business somewhere safer. Your appearance there was a hope, big hope from us, but you did something different. You did something opposite. Hidden agenda, we have reasons to believe. Number 2, 1.2, we must respect science. While we cannot defeat nature, we can protect humans, which is the focus of urban planning. Why CEQA? Why CEQA always exempting things that are projects supposed to be in accord with health and safety? Thank you, Uncle Sam. Thank you, God. Help us.
Thank you, Kathleen Lippitt, and allegedly Dr.
Point of order before you start my time. Usually we do yesterday's meeting and then this meeting. Is this going to be consistently how you do the process? Because I'm just confused. Can you answer that as for a point of order?
Point of order, we always begin with non-agenda public comment in the morning. That's legally required. So that's what we're doing today.
No, we've already moved into today's meeting, is what I'm saying. Usually you do yesterday's meeting, finish it, and then start today. So
we're doing consent from today, currently. And then we have a number of time-certain items that we're running through today for Wednesday. And then as soon as we're done with our time-certain, we will do what we can to finish the yesterday's agenda.
I just want like clarity, because normally you say this is how it's going to go, and I just want anyway, thank you. So I'm wondering when you guys are going to put people over profit with this emergency that we continue to declare, for decades now. And it just seems this is evidently gross malfeasance when, you're not really doing anything to make sure that Mexico isn't, distributing their sewage into our communities. And talks will happen with Mexico, like through Sandag and stuff, and there'll be MOUs that are created, but they're never really getting down to fixing the problem. It's like you're willing to let people suffer for decades and collect data on them and give them faulty air purifiers and, complain about how horrible it is for them to experience this. But where is the urgency to do something about it? Because there's more concern about the profit that comes from the port of entry, the $60 billion that comes across. So you're not willing to even go, let's stop that until Mexico gets their shit together. Because our people are suffering, and it's so sad to see that you guys care more about that profit that comes in than telling Mexico, you need to, even with Sandag and the toll roads, we're going to give them control over that, and they're going to get funding for it. But we're not going to make them, ensure that they're putting this into processing plants and stuff like that.
So it's like you guys want to sit here and you want to do this and you want to, act as though you really care. But Paloma, this is your community. And it's like you are gaslighting them when you sit here and act like you give a shit. Because I bet you don't even sit there and suffer the consequences that they do. Because you could go and leave that place. And people are stuck there, suffering, waiting for you guys to actually do something. How long is it going to be? 30 more decades?
Next speaker.
Good morning and thank you. I just wanted to remind what the California Environmental Quality Act is supposed to be. It was meant to be considered at the earliest possible stages in project's process. It applies to all discretionary projects proposed to be conducted or approved by California public agencies, and includes private projects requiring discretionary government approval. The environmental review process should begin as soon as the project is proposed, before any significant decisions are made about the project. These exemptions were designed to streamline the environmental review process for projects deemed to have minimal or negligible environmental impacts. However, we see it being used for pretty much anything that the county wants to rush through, and that includes the social equity cannabis program, battery energy storage facilities, wind turbines, and large-scale solar projects. Statutory exemptions are explicitly defined by the California legislature and apply regardless of the program project's potential environmental impacts. Examples include emergency repairs to public services facilities, certain affordable housing projects, and transportation projects specified in state law. There are categorical exemptions established by the Secretary of the California Natural Resources Agency. These apply to causes of projects that typically do not have significant environmental effects, which many of your exempted projects do. Exceptions exist if a project could cause significant cumulative impacts and affect sensitive environments, and they most certainly do in our unincorporated communities, which should not be used as dumping grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Excuse me. The TJ River Valley pollution crisis is now spreading county-wide. This is more than a crisis, more than an emergency. But your response has been mostly to seek external money or resources, which can take months and years. We need the local action, which would be quicker. It is affecting people's daily lives, daily. People are getting sicker or worse, daily. You mentioned local efforts in the last paragraph. We need action now, not in the future, not when Congress or the state can find the money to act. And by the way, some of the pollution is coming from the United States, so it's not like we need to go to Mexico to find it all the time. We're getting tired of air purifiers that don't work, of repeated studies which find the same basic thing of people getting sick from the pollution, of money being thrown at so many things that haven't worked, like the air purifiers. Time for a new approach, maybe local action, like I keep saying. I previously mentioned several possible solutions, the main one being handheld pollution monitors to find out which buildings and exactly where the pollution is coming from. Look them up. And by the way, a lot of these sources are probably accidental little cracks that no one noticed. But I cannot support the continuation of what is essentially an industry based on promoting the emergency rather than fixing it. Summer vacation at Canada.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Due to the fact that we cover up the fact that we allow non-citizens to vote in our elections, as long as you lie on the registration form, you're perfectly fine to kill anyone about it. The county is trying to go ahead and kill Andrea Ebbing by not providing her medical care for her aneurysm that she had right before they locked her up. Zero care, constant, her blood pressure is beyond belief. It's most likely the end result will be that she will end up dead in medical care because they do not want her to go to trouble. That's flat. There is no case, no bail, no one could really go talk to her, no one can go ahead and assist her. This is how fucking corrupt our county became. Oh, I understand you're planning on doing the same fucking thing to me because I called you a fucking cunt. Because you guys are cunts. There is no fucking question about that. I can go ahead and represent that.
Just a reminder that your remarks need to be pertinent and germane to an item listed on the consent agenda. Your remarks at the moment are not. If you continue in that vein, your time will be forfeited. If you'd like to speak to an item on the consent agenda, please make the item you're speaking to and how your remarks are relevant clear. Thank you.
It is clear based on our elections that we are not choosing our elected. We are not choosing our elected, so the selected are making the choices. If you do not agree with the choices, talk to the people hiring them, which is the NGO committee of registration photos off. If you want changes, you need to go and address those changes with the NGOs that are controlling each and every single one of these supervisors. Because talking to them is futile. It is pointless, and it will only get you put in jail.
Your time is up. We will go to our next speaker.
Spencer here. I want to comment about the Tijuana situation. I think one thing we need to do is the past supervisor person was linked up to the drug dealers in some way, so she quit. I wonder if the new one has any connections to the drug dealers. She knows the mayor of Tijuana. He's linked up to the drug dealers, so I wonder if she would disclose, because I think she's an anchor baby to begin with. Her parents brought her here to have her, so. But I think we should check that out if it has anything to do with the Tijuana River scene. And then let's talk to Homeland Security and have them put 3 border walls right there, 20 feet apart. The first one will strain the junk coming in from Tijuana, and then that's like 5 inches. The next one can be 3 inches, like a strainer. And then 10 feet or 20 feet away from that one, have it like 1 inch away. That way we can get all the traps first. And Trump's got billions of dollars. He's got the wall out there. They can do that. That'd be the first thing we gotta do anyway. And then we can start building some swimming pools, huge ones, to collect the sewage. And I wouldn't be opposed to just pumping it back into Mexico, man. Some of it, to shoot it in the residential neighborhood there, let them mess with it. And then we gotta just keep working, one thing I think about it too is if we would install Settler as the public health official, he'd get the job done. Our past one is going to get prosecuted for the Fauci deals. We need to have all our emails and texts to Fauci because they all got paid for it. They made millions on it. So if the shit's coming down, it's hitting the fan. And make Wooten doesn't delete her email.
Thank you. Your time is up. We will go to our next speaker.
It's true, item 2. So I want to say those first for the record, Terry. We're 18 minutes late today, and yet you failed to clarify the order of the meeting for the public. Now I want to talk about what Cesar brought up. He said something to the effect of, you did something different, a hidden agenda. And I believe that was directed towards Monica, but it applies to several politicians, and in this item specifically, it applies to sewage queen, Manuela Loma Aguirre, and her constant lies. Let me play a clip, actually.
Even though more data is helpful from a health perspective to characterize what's going on, we do not need more data to act. We have more than enough. We better also be alone. And what you did there to act.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. We do have sufficient data. I know.
Who laughs after they say they live somewhere? Isn't that weird? Really weird and suspicious? I say that because we've heard her say, oh, we've just plenty of studies. We can just act now. And then here's the guy that works for the county. He admitted it too. We can act now, and yet the county has done absolutely nothing other than this state of emergency declaration that does absolutely nothing. But she flip-flops. That's all she's ever done. Because just like Lemon Grove Mayor Allison Snow, you are fake. You are a fake person. All you're interested in is manipulating people and exploiting their suffering for your own personal political gain. Manuela spend more energy on taxpayer-funded logo for herself than for stopping Mexico sewage. Because as San Maria has opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to not support the Otay Mesa East border crossing, which is going to bring more development and more sewage to Imperial Beach, and she has refused, just like she voted no to their plan of stopping it, just like her fake purifier solution to APCD. She's the opposite of Coronado Mayor John Duncan, who wants real solutions. He said, one fact must remain clear.
Thank you. Your time is up, and we will go to our next speaker.
Well, it's just so corrupt. It's just so evident that this is all by design, and I don't understand what people aren't getting. It's like they're getting kickbacks left and right. They have been for decades, and the people in the diocese know the game. I mean, they know it so well, they're so arrogant, they don't listen to any of us. And any of the people, they could care less about the people suffering. I mean, you got Anderson there scrolling away all the time. I mean, isn't your hand burning by now? Dude, seriously, put that freaking phone down and listen. It's just so sick how you guys behave up there, and how it's insane how people just believe like, yeah, there's, we're still waiting on a solution. There's so much money, there's so much technology. This could have been taken care of decades ago, but there's money involved. So until people realize that, I don't know how this has gone on for so long, and it's just kind of like, gosh, the people that just have a lot of it, like you guys, you don't have, it's not rocket science. It's just so simple, and it really is. Money, technology, but people are getting kickbacks, and there's a reason, all by design, there's a reason why this is going on for so long, and it's our waters, it's the animals being affected, it's the humans being affected, it's everything. And if you knew about ocean water, and this is kind of like a bit of a, whatever, I'm not even going to get into that, but ocean water is so healing, so I'll just leave it at that. So there's a reason for everything, and yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chair Lawson River, that concludes public comment on items on the consent calendar.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We have a motion by Vice Chair, and a second by for approval of all items on consent. Please go ahead and vote.
And Chair Lawson River, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present voting aye.
and these are items 3 through 6 for Wednesday. We're going to begin with Wednesday item 5, because that was kind of certain, and we are doing here by Chief Meacham. Then we will move back to do items 3 and 4. Then we will be moving on to Tuesday items, because there's actually quite a lot of public interest in those items. So that's items 29 and items 30, and items 31 from Tuesday. And then, and items 32. And then we will go back to item 6, which is from Wednesday, because it is a more technical procedural matter, and we've had fewer public comments. We're trying to be considerate of the public's interest in participation. So that will be Wednesday at 6 over the last, and then we'll adjourn. Okay? So for everyone who was curious, now your curiosity is satisfied, we will begin with item 5.
San Diego County's wildfire preparedness efforts and the continued investments being made to mitigate wildfire risk and protect our communities. San Diego County remains one of the state's most active wildfire regions in county fire in partnership with CAL FIRE, along with the Sheriff's Office and Office of Emergency Services, continues to advance a comprehensive strategy focused on prevention, mitigation, preparedness, emergency response, and public education. Today's presentation will highlight current wildfire conditions and regional fire resources, aviation and technological enhancements, community risk reduction work, emergency management coordination, and evacuation readiness. I'm joined today by Chief Tony Meacham, our Chief for County Fire and CAL FIRE, Dale Arbuthnot, our Director of the Office of Emergency Services, and Sergeant Michael Hanks and Lieutenant Gavin Lanning with the San Diego County Sheriff's Office. I'll now turn the presentation over to our Chief.
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning, Chair Austin Reamer and members of the board. We start today with a map showing the significant wildfire activity leading up to the creation of San Diego County Fire. The devastating and deadly firestorms in 2003 and 2007 were defining events for our region. These fires remain some of the largest and most destructive fires in state history, with over 750,000 acres burned, resulting in thousands of homes destroyed. Vulnerabilities in regional wildfire preparedness and emergency response were exposed, showing that wildfires did not recognize jurisdictional boundaries and underscored the need for greater regional coordination, planning, and investment. In response, the board established San Diego County Fire in 2008 to consolidate rural fire protection districts, volunteer fire companies, and unserved islands into a unified regional fire service. This map illustrates wildfire activity following the creation of County Fire in 2008. When you compare the visual to the previous slide, it demonstrates a couple of things. First, the partnership between County and CAL FIRE has made a significant impact with reducing catastrophic fires, but it also shows a tremendous risk to the region. While fires have occurred, including a very busy 2014 fire season, many of these fires burned within areas that were previously not impacted during the 2003 and 2007 fire stages. Today, those historic burn scars have experienced vegetation regrowth, combined with recurring drought conditions and seasonal drying. Continuous field events have returned across much of the county. This slide shows the fire hazard severity map for state and local responsibility areas. Inland field conditions are steadily deteriorating and have already reached seasonal critical levels. The greatest concern remains in the alignment of critically dry fields with the onset of Santa Ana wind events, when the potential for large, fast-moving wildfires will be at its highest. County Fire continuously monitors field conditions through light field moisture sampling, weather observations, predictive modeling, and intelligence from state and federal partners. Fire conditions directly influence staffing decisions, resource pre-positioning, aviation readiness, and vegetation management priorities. Field conditions help us define the level of wildfire risk, but regional preparedness ultimately depends on having the people and resources in place to respond quickly and effectively. The county funds nearly 300 firefighters assigned across 21 county fire stations, supported by a fleet of more than 225 apparatus and vehicles. The The region is further supported by 18 CAL FIRE state funded stations, 5 fire camps, 3 aviation facilities, and more than 800 CAL FIRE firefighters assigned during the peak fire season. The department also operates an extensive paramedic ambulance system providing critical emergency medical services to our rural communities. These investments provide round-the-clock all-hazard emergency response capabilities across our region, in addition to firefighters on the ground. We also attack fires from the air. Aviation plays a critical role in San Diego County's overall wildfire response strategy and was one of the most significant investments made to strengthen regional resilience. The county purchased an S-70 Firehawk helicopter, which became operational in May and provides nighttime fire response and 1,000-gallon water drops to support wildfire suppression. This deployment is aligned with the arrival of CAL FIRE C-130 Hercules air tanker at the Ramona Air Attack Base, further strengthening the region's aerial firefighting capability. At the same time, substantial upgrades to the base itself have expanded operational capacity and positioned Ramona as an increasingly important aviation hub for Southern California. The importance was demonstrated over the past couple of months during both Serrano fires in the city of San Diego and the recent Creelman fire in Ramona, where a coordinated response of aviation assets helped knock down these fires. In addition to air assets, other investments have bolstered the effectiveness of incident response. Advancements in technology have become essential, and County Fire leverages multiple technology platforms to improve situational awareness, accelerate decision-making, and enhance coordination before, during, and after incidents. County Fire utilizes Tablet Command, a cloud-based incident management platform that provides real-time unit tracking, resource status updates, and electronic tactical information sharing, improving interoperability and reducing communication delays. Digital tactical mapping allows incident commanders to visualize fire perimeters, infrastructure, topography, evacuation zones, field conditions, and critical assets with a common operating picture. The new Aware California platform will provide near real-time access to UCSD wildfire cameras, satellite detections, weather information, and other operational intelligence when it is released next month. For emergency managers and first responders, this information supports early fire detection, improved situational awareness, and more informed deployment decisions. For residents, the public-facing application provides access to live camera imagery, incident information, allowing them to monitor conditions across the region and better understand wildfire activity affecting their communities. While we continue to look towards technology response effectiveness, pre-fire efforts must remain a top priority. Community risk reduction is the county's most effective long-term wildfire mitigation strategy. County Fire began utilizing Vibrant Planning, a platform to identify potential field reduction project areas, validate existing projects, and support community wildfire protection plan development and unit fire plan efforts across San Diego County. During the 2025 calendar year, crews completed nearly 800 miles of vegetation management of county and state roads, constructed approximately 224 acres of field grades, completed approximately 45 lane miles of retardant treatment. County Fire also completed more than 37,000 defensible space inspections, updated 10 community wildfire protection plans, and supported the creation of 17 new fire safety councils. Community preparedness efforts include 67 CERT trainings and events, maintenance of approximately 100 active CERT volunteers, 11 community chipping events, 11 school fire safety events, 13 wildland urban interface classes, and outreach affecting and reaching thousands of our residents. To share more on emergency preparedness, I'll now turn the presentation over to Daryl Argonaut, Director of County Police.
Thank you, Chief Meacham. While the county leads wildfire suppression operations, OES serves as the county's emergency management agency, bringing together county departments, our 18 incorporated cities, tribal governments, special districts, nonprofit organizations, utility, and state and federal partners to ensure the entire region is prepared to respond to recover as a coordinated system. Before wildfire season, we work with our partners to update emergency evacuation plans, conduct regional training exercises, expand community preparedness efforts, maintain Alert San Diego, and ensure the Emergency Operations Center is ready for activation whenever needed. During a major wildfire, when the incident exceeds the capability
Operations Center to coordinate resources, request emergency alerts, public information, situation reporting, sheltering for both residents and animals, and state federal assistance response to support the needs that protect lives and property. Over the past year, we've conducted strenuous strengthening our regional readiness through investments in community preparedness, emergency planning, operational readiness, and regional coordination. To better support this mission, OES recently reorganized around emergency management lifecycle by creating dedicated divisions for community engagement, preparedness, planning and training, and responsive coordination. Through our community engagement preparedness division, we conducted more than 70 community outreach events, including a regional fire weather workshop that brought together emergency managers, fire, utility, and other regional partners to coordinate ahead of wildfire season. We improved the accessibility to the Alert San Diego website and mobile app, and continue helping residents better prepare for emergencies through public education and preparedness initiatives. Through our planning and training division, we've updated the multi-jurisdictional hazardous mitigation plan to include additional wildfire mitigation actions and revise the county's emergency operation plan, including the wildfire response annex. We've coordinated regional training exercises, strengthened regional readiness for future disasters, and improved preparedness across county departments and our operation area partners. Through our response and coordination division, we prepared the county's emergency operations center for wildfire season, coordinated response planning across operational areas with the state enhanced Alert San Diego and Genesis Protect to better improve public warning, evacuation, and strengthen recovery planning to the communities can recover more quickly from disasters. The strength of San Diego County's emergency management system comes from the partnership we've built and continue to build across the county's departments, city, tribal governments, special districts, nonprofit organizations, and our state and federal partners. Together, those partnerships help ensure we're ready to protect our community before, during, and after disasters. Now I'll turn the presentation over to Sergeant Michael Hanks.
Thank you, Director. As the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for San Diego County, the Sheriff serves as the Law Enforcement Beach-related Coordinator for the county. The Sheriff's Emergency Planning Detail manages the training, planning, and logistics for the response to natural and man-made disasters, which includes wildfires. The Sheriff's Office participates on the county's evacuation committee, a partnership with county OES, city emergency managers, CAL FIRE, local fire departments, Red Cross, utility companies, local law enforcement agencies, and others. The evacuation committee has been critical for interagency coordination and implementing improvements to notifications and evacuations. In June 2026, SCSO also joined a working group for Aware California, a statewide public alerting platform designed to provide emergency notifications from trusted public safety partners. The Sheriff's Office continues to be a partner in the county's Ag Pass program, which allows commercial farmers special access to their properties to conduct agriculture activities. This year, Sheriff Doug Martinez approved a new program, the Emergency Tribal Access Pass, or ETAP, which allows qualifying tribal government members and their employees to enter evacuation zones through soft closures to assist with zone stabilization efforts. During a wildfire, law enforcement's role in Unified Command focuses on evacuating impacted communities, protecting rights of way, and safeguarding property. Unified Command evaluates fire behavior and incident conditions to determine whether evacuations are necessary. Evacuation orders are issued if there is a threat to life. The decision to evacuate is not made lightly. It will depend entirely on the nature, scope, and severity of the emergency, the number of people affected, and what actions are necessary to protect the public. While law enforcement is responsible for issuing and conducting evacuations, we rely heavily on the expertise of our fire department on when and where evacuations are needed based on fire behavior. Due to the dynamic nature of disasters, evacuation routes, temporary evacuation points, and shelters are pre-planned but intentionally not pre-published. When evacuation orders are required, the Sheriff's Office uses multiple methods for notifying the public, including WIAs, Genesis Protect, Alert San Diego, audible warnings, and door-to-door notifications. Using multiple systems increases the likelihood that critical information reaches those in harm's way. Thank you. I'll now turn the presentation over to Lieutenant Gavin Lincoln.
Thanks, Sergeant Hanks. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today about wildfire preparedness and the critical role ASTRIA plays in protecting the people of San Diego County. ASTRIA is the aerial support unit for the Sheriff's Office and has been serving our community since 1971. Today, our program is divided into 3 missions: patrol operations, firefighting, and search and rescue. All combined, we responded to over 5,500 missions in 2025. Wildfire response continues to be one of our highest priorities. In 2025, ASTRIA responded to 285 fire dispatches and delivered 985 water drops in support of suppression efforts across the county. Protecting San Diego County from the threat of wildfires requires a true team effort. It is a mission far bigger than any one agency. One of ASTRIA's greatest strengths is our partnership with San Diego County Fire and CAL FIRE. We are proud to be co-located with personnel from all 3 agencies, allowing our teams to train together, respond together, and work seamlessly during emergencies. We are also excited to work alongside the County Fire's new Firehawk helicopter this season, further strengthening our regional response capabilities. That same spirit of partnership extends to search and rescue operations. While the Sheriff's Office has the primary legal responsibility for these missions, our success depends on close coordination with our fire partners. Fire personnel operate the helicopter hoist, while onboard rescue specialists provide immediate patient care. Since 2021, a paramedic has been assigned to the team, allowing advanced life support to begin at the scene. This integrated approach to fire and rescue is unique in California and is a powerful example of the collaboration among CAL FIRE, the San Diego County Fire Authority, and the San Diego County Sheriff's Office. Our current firefighting helicopter fleet consists of 1 modern Bell 412 EPX and 2 aging Bell 205s, both built in the 1960s. To modernize ASTRIA's fleet and ensure it remains capable of meeting the region's current and growing demands, the Sheriff's Office is actively pursuing the remaining funding needed to acquire a second Bell 412 EPX. In preparation for this acquisition, the Sheriff's Office secured a $3.75 million grant from the U.S. Forest Service. We have already auctioned 2 helicopters, and we plan to auction the remaining 205s and associated equipment to further offset the cost. A second 412 EPX would ensure year-round coverage with a newer, safer, and more capable aircraft, while significantly strengthening our ability to fight fires, rescue people, and support the region. Just as importantly, its twin-engine capability would allow ASTRIA to extend our shift coverage into hours of darkness, assisting CAL FIRE's nighttime wildfire suppression efforts, and provide a critical advantage in containing fires before they become large, catastrophic incidents, such as what we saw in Los Angeles and more recently in Washington State and Northern California. As we prepare for another wildfire season, ASTRIA remains committed to protecting lives, property, and our communities through rapid initial response, strong partnerships, and dedicated public service. We appreciate the board's continued support as we work to strengthen these capabilities for the future. Thank you. I will now turn the presentation back over to Chief Meacham.
Thank you, Lieutenant Lanning. The county has invested more than $1 billion in fire protection and preparedness over the past few decades, with a focus on staffing, facilities, fleet, community preparedness, and community risk reduction. The investment serves as a blueprint when looking to the future. As we noted earlier in the presentation, we have changed the landscape of the region's fire protection, but the threat is still very much real. Future investments should continue to be made in modern fire stations, replenishing fleet, staffing, regional training, and vegetation management. Air resources have been bolstered, but we still need a second twin-engine Bell 412 EPX helicopter for the sheriffs so that it can sustain year-round coverage with lifeline. Chair Lawson, remember, this concludes our presentation on regional wildfire preparedness, and we are available for your questions.
Okay, before questions, we will go to public comment, and then we'll have a board conversation and questions.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. Remember, we do have 8 total requests to speak, 3 individuals in person, and 5 requested to speak by phone. I'd also like to note for the record, we did have 1 comment on this item, which was in favor. For any individual that requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it's your turn to speak at the podium. You will then have 2 minutes to address the board. And then if you could please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'd like to invite forward Kathleen Lippis, Cesar Javier, and Elizabeth Wagner.
In other presentations, there was a focus on equipment that are subject to corrosion when we use salt water for firefighting. This is an opportunity for our inventors or scientists. What progress have we gotten to, use salt water for putting on fire? We experienced this at Montezuma Fire, District 9, under Councilor Rivera Homestead. And suddenly he won the election. Re-elected. The opponent says, what happened to the Montezuma Fire? We were at the lesson learned meeting, and one of the fire personnel declared that we cannot enter private property even if it's, under fire. And then we confirmed the opposite from this disaster meeting, saying the chief city fire says, no, we can go and enter anywhere and put out the fire. And suddenly Councilor Rivera won the re-election. A big question about fire related, Madam Chair, if I may be corrected. That is one. And then aviation. Aviation is really a pillar. And of course, Mr. Serrano, the chair of Mandy Water Authority, should be here to tell you, to declare to the public that we have enough water. Corruption on the water authority, that's our problem.
Thank you. And then Kathleen has let us know she doesn't want to speak on this item, so allegedly.
Items like this show how compromised you guys are, because this gaslights the people when we're talking about preparedness, but we're bringing in projects that are putting people in danger because of lack of evacuation routes. So you guys can talk about rapid response, but if there's not critical planning that will ensure that people can evacuate in new residential areas that are increasing the amount of people, but there's one way in and one way out. And it's because these projects were brought in, with old data. So that's negligent, because it's like you want to sit here and say you're prepared, but you're not protecting the community. So you're actually making it harder on the emergency services to be able to mitigate that stuff, because if they're increasing the potential risk for communities to go up in flames, it doesn't matter how much equipment you have. And they continue to put projects like that forward. And there's things like nanothermite being sprayed. So, that doesn't help when there's fires that get out of control because particulates are being sprayed from the air that cause fires to get out of control. And we don't want to recognize those things. So you talk about preparedness, but it's like, where is that? Where are you putting in roundabouts where we already know that those impedes people's ability to evacuate? So, I feel like you guys should be more concerned about that too, and going, why are we implementing this kind of stuff? It's my duty to protect the people, but if you're not telling them that, because there will be fire chiefs that say, yeah, go ahead and put it through, and he tells the community, if you would have come to me now, it wouldn't have passed. So why aren't we doing stuff like that to be prepared? That's willful negligence. So don't gaslight the people like this and say that we're preparing when we even have BESS, battery energy storage, that, you can't put those fires out. But let's keep putting them in and be prepared, right?
Thank you. We will now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
prepare for another wildfire season? Buddy, the season started a while ago. Wildfires are now, you know how to say. All the fires extra helicopters and aircraft and air stations and safety changes like enhanced setbacks and brush clearance. These have resulted in wildfires being put out quicker and not also depending so much on the weather and the fires on the flat or steep ground or in a canyon. But of course, there's a lot of work to be done. There's still a few fires bigger than they should be. So a presentation on the regional wildfire preparedness is a good thing. I don't know why you didn't take public comments first to see if there are any special concerns that people should address. I am interested in what the sheriff is so involved in firefighting, and the auditor had a bunch of good questions. Not sure it's better anymore.
I think we lost you, Paul. You there? All right, so we'll go to our next speaker.
I can't believe you're willing to kill Andrea Ebbing because you don't want to hear what she has to say. Now, regarding the whole fire thing, why are we going with lithium and cobalt batteries when we could go with graphene batteries? If you're wondering about the feedstock, you could go ahead and recycle the plastic in our landfills to create that feedstock. You could turn it into gasoline and the byproduct is low-grade carbon, which you can make graphene out of, and make graphene batteries where you can put them out with water. But your interest isn't actually the environment or even helping the people, because by doing that, those actions right there, adopting Julian Brown's technology, recycling the plastic into diesel, fuel, gasoline, and then the byproduct is low-grade carbon, which can be turned into graphene, strengthening our roads, the infrastructure, you could end up generating $258 million a year without asking taxpayers money. But instead of doing that, you're going to go ahead and push that into commercial. You're going to give all that money to the commercial market, and then they're going to go and determine when and if we ever get graphene batteries. Because it is more profitable to go ahead and mine and use slave labor, because fuck that, we are the slave traders now. We want that cobalt, so we do not care how the people go ahead and get that. We just want our shit cheap, and so we pretend we don't like fucking slavery, but we outsource to all the slave traders, because that's what Monica wants. That's what Monica desires. Monica desires Julian Brown's name to be removed from the history books. She does not believe that young African-American kids at 17 coming up with the technology that could save them.
Your time is up. We're going to go back to you, Paul. You have 34 seconds left. You there, Paul? Your phone might be muted, Paul. Okay.
Oh, no, George. 2 minutes?
You're having some connection issues.
Okay, but do I get 2 minutes?
No.
Anyway, what? Okay, well, there's a lot of work to be done. There are a few figures.
We can't hear you at all, Paul. You'll have to get to better cell phone reception. All right, we'll go to our next speaker.
It's true, fires don't recognize boundaries, and so require a regional strategy with a unified service response. That's what I heard. So I'm almost scared to ask, why hasn't the county done that for what John Duncan said was 100% Mexican sewage? See, again, the hypocrisy reveals itself, and it's why people are now seeking yet another recall. But let's get back to fires. Where are the evacuation routes? Why is the county investing in them, including in making their whereabouts publicly known? Because just like Mexico sewage, why has the county failed to advocate at Sandag for investment in evacuation routes and fire response teams? The 67 have been bringing up for years, and there's been no real move towards making it even basically safe for the public to drive, let alone evacuate from. Too much of this presentation was about what firefighters need, but not what the public needs. I like CAL FIRE's fire map, and it should be more promoted. The live camera should be linked on the page. The county needs to advocate for enforcement on arsonists, treatment for drug addiction and use, and brush mitigation, since the county allows drug addicts and arsonists to burn down communities. Has the county invested in fire sensors? Because those, along with fire cameras, help catch the arsonists. The county needs to advocate on changing state law, aka CEQA exemptions, and be able to use homeowners' swimming pools during fire response, even if it requires MOUs. Why hasn't the county invested in more night flying helicopters? Why did it take years to even get one? Why did the county wait to act when they knew the helicopter wasn't working for at least 6 months? Why did you get mad when I told the Sandag Public Safety about that? Why did the county not get a night flying helicopter until I brought it up countywide? That's an admission that regional watchdogging accountability is important. And yet that the county continues to support fire-prone battery energy storage sites, wind turbines, and EVs, along with emergency vehicle blocking roundabouts, and evacuation blocking high-density projects, then everything said here is fake, 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 fake.
Time's up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Amen. Going to call out. Yep, we're not in the business of solutions. So, state the obvious. Okay, so first off, wildfires occur in nature and have its role from things like clearing the ground and returning nutrients to the plants, releasing seeds, and supporting other wildlife. So it does occur in nature, but it's become very obvious that the wildfires these days are deliberately being started. They're anything but wild. They're planned. I remember speaking to a woman who told me that she had owned a ranch out in New Mexico, and she had lost everything. I've told the story before here. Anyway, she lost everything in a planned fire. And she remembered asking her husband why the county would have a planned fire when the winds were up. It was so odd, she said, and like my radar instantly went up, and I was like, okay. And I looked at her, like, don't you get it, lady? But this woman was so out of touch, like just totally out of touch and clueless, and trusted her government, and it didn't even dawn on her that it was perfectly set when the winds were up. So instead of canceling it, Anyway, so we see how these deliberately set fires are happening more and more, and it's due to having to keep the narrative of climate change going, and it is changing due to being engineered and delivered via chemtrails, as Audra mentioned earlier, to the government-funded arson, and all to keep the people in fear and under control.
Thank you. Your time is up. Okay, we're going to go back to Paul. Paul, you have 34 seconds left.
Hope you can hear me now.
We can hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me? Great. Let's see. So, presentation on wildfire preparedness is a good thing. I don't know why you didn't take public comments first to see if there are any special concerns the fire people should address. I'm interested in what the sheriff is so involved in firefighting. There had a bunch of good work. Not sure if we matter anymore. The fourth.
All right, follow up with the rest of your time, and Chair Lawson-Reamer, not seeing any other callers in the queue, that will conclude public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. I had a couple of questions, but I also want to open it up to my colleagues. Anyone else has comments?
Is that a question?
Go ahead.
Well, thanks very much for the report. I mean, it was, you got it down to a science, and we learned a lot of lessons over the last couple of decades, and you've done a great job. One of the pictures you have there, showed the fire coming right up to the subdivision, or, to the homes there, and we saw in Paradise that, not Paradise, Palisades, City Palisades, lots of people words. But anyway, Palisades, the wind is blowing down the hill, just drives the fire right in the neighborhoods. I remember sheep and goats and other types of methods of clearing fuel. Are we advancing on any of that, or clearing fuel, particularly in adjacent to housing and things like that? I'm curious what the strategy is, where we're at.
Through the Chair, Supervisor Bismarck, we continue to make significant investments in community risk reduction. We certainly are always going to look for more response assets. I've said many times, we're not going to respond our way out of this wildfire crisis. The long-term strategy for us is in building more resilient communities, and that starts with a few fundamental things. It's defensible space around existing properties, where the homeowner has the responsibility. Continue to invest in home hardening. Certainly larger fuel reduction projects. For example, we did a project in the community of Crest about a 14 mile.
My point, the fuel reduction.
The fuel reduction is critically to manage these fuel grids. Fire is part of the natural ecosystem, so I think continuing to manage those standing fuel beds for a variety of reasons, or a variety of methods, is important. Certainly, goats and sheep are part of that inventory, but that is the long-term strategy to reduce our losses, is to continue to invest in managing the fuel.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the great work, and we've seen huge improvements since 2003 and 2007 fires. And congratulations. And one of the things I was harping on yesterday is agencies all working together, and it seems to work very well.
Thank you. Chairperson Aguirre.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for all your work and being so prepared and working well as far as interagency coordination. I always appreciate that. I also want to align myself with what Supervisor Nisman said about fuel reduction. I think we need to enhance as many opportunities as we have to use, what used to be non-traditional but are becoming more commonplace, like goats, at low cost and living. And so I would encourage that. My question has to do with defensible spaces. We talked a lot about that when we approved a couple of projects this year, actually. You do those annually, and if so, that's $37,000, right? I know that's a lot, but as we increase our risk and vulnerability to wildfires, I think that, I guess my question to you is, do we need to increase those from annually to biannually? Are there plans around that? What are your thoughts?
Through the Chair, Supervisor here. So in our responsibility area, we have about roughly 106,000 structures. And so we started this with a 3-year cycle. Our goal going into this year, we just received through the state budget 2 additional full-time positions to do defensible space. So our new goal is to go to every other year on the defensible space. And ultimately, I would like to acquire enough staffing to be able to do the inspections annually. I think that the more that we're out in the community, the more we're interacting with the homeowners, the better result we get. And I think something that's important to add, of those 37,000, we issued less than a dozen citations. And I'm very proud of our staff that we have over a 99% compliance rate, because one of the reasons we haven't hit our goal of 50 is that we're taking the time with the individual homeowners to educate them about the risk, which then changes kind of the culture and the outlook of the community where they understand the investment. And then when we go back on the re-inspection in a year or two, we find that those inspections have been done. So it's almost like a snowball. It started with about 11,000, we're up to 37, our goal this year is 50. But ultimately, I would like to inspect all 106,000 structures.
No, that's very helpful. So we do them triannually, and we're moving towards annually, and that's great. And I really appreciate the educational portion. You talked a lot about that in our last project that we talked about. So thank you. I appreciate your work very much.
Hi, thank you all. Let me just ask a couple questions. The first is about 911 response time. And so I wanted to better understand what's our county's fire response getting first to the scene.
As you know, we serve a very wide geographic area, from very dense urban areas to extremely remote areas. And so we divided the county into 3 response categories based on population density. And we measure a little bit differently from the moment we pick up the first 911 call until we arrive at the scene. So it's the totality of the response. So in an urban area, we strive to be there 90% of the time within 9 minutes. Rural areas at 14 minutes, and the most outlying areas in the county at 24 minutes.
Okay, that's very helpful. And what percentage of our calls are currently meeting the standards?
So for 2025, for urban areas, we were at 82% compliance. Rural areas were at 83%, and outlying at 88%.
Great. And then first of all, that's amazing. It's great. And also still room to do better. So I think about both to celebrate how good a job the team is doing, and also to acknowledge that we can always be improving, and we'd love to get those numbers to 100%. As we kind of continue thinking about what investments we need to make. Are there places in our system today where county fire is evaluating additional stations, fire stations, or are there other investments we could or should be looking at that would help us get up to 100% on those response rate standards?
Charles, there's a multitude of answers. The first is yes. We have a very comprehensive standards of coverage where we look at our ability to serve every community. We have identified areas in this county that would certainly benefit from having a fire station. As we rebuild our aging facilities, some of those we believe we can relocate to improve response times. The other fundamental issues are that 8 of our state fire stations are providing primary county coverage. And so when we have very active wildfire seasons, oftentimes those stations are not covered. We made advancements last year in Palmer Valley and Missouri, saw that, but we believe additional companies. And then the final piece of that is we do have some stations that have very high busy workloads. And so when those companies are committed, adjoining stations have to serve those areas. So really it is additional stations, relocating stations, and then ensuring resources in all of our facilities can handle that workload in each of our.
Okay. So just kind of building on that a little bit, that's really about what about fire agents and apparatus?
So
didn't we just purchase a new truck for about 1.4 million, a couple of trucks?
So in the county fire inventory, we have over 225 vehicles, and what we've seen in the last 3 years, the price of the fire engine has tripled. Our current most recent was 1.38 million. We currently have we've identified the next 5 years a $35 million liability in our capital assets. So about $6 to $7 million a year is what's required just to maintain the fleet that we currently have.
So 6 to 7 million to maintain the fleet, and then it's 1.4 more or less to add an additional vehicle that would to help to kind of chip away at improving response times.
That is correct.
Just back up to the fire stations. The kind of the big modern fire stations, as as we're looking in the future, what's the projected approximate costs, like for stations like the East Otay Mesa?
So, our fire stations vary by size, depending on the number of personnel. So, Otay Mesa was a very large station. At the time, we built that for $16.7 million. Some of our other more rural stations are about half the footprint. But with construction costs and with how remote our stations are, we're estimating about $18 to $20 million to rebuild the facility. And we've identified 10 facilities that currently we should be looking at for replacement. With 4 of those being really critical that we look at replacement.
4 critical, 10 that need replacement, 4 that are critical, that's not even building new ones.
That is correct.
Okay. At a kind of a cost, if we look backwards, at about $17 million, more or less, per facility.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. This is very interesting. And first of all, just to remind you, saying again, how proud I am of you and the team and how great everyone really is doing. I just really want to continue focusing on what we need to do to continue making those investments and scaling the investments that we need to always be at the top of the game. The last question is about staffing. I know we've done a lot to make huge progress in staffing over the last 6 years. It's been a kind of a game changer. I know we have a lot of our trucks that still have 3 people on them, and I'm wondering whether we have any instances where 4-person staffing would improve capacity or operations.
General Officer, the most important thing for us is having the adequate staffing. We measure our success in 2 things: the speed that we get there and then the weight we bring to the response. Only 2 of our 22 companies are currently staffed with 4 people. We have a legal requirement, unless we have a known victim trapped in a building, that we require a minimum of 4 firefighters on scene before we can enter into that building. So when we arrive with 3 people, we can initiate actions, but we can't initiate interior structural firefighting. Our rescue companies, everything we do is dependent on 2 people working in teams of 2. Our rescue companies are also staffed with 3 personnel in that critical fourth. And the final piece of this, when we talk about wildfire response, I want you to think about hiking a hill in the summer with 70 to 80 pounds of gear on your back. And what we see is by going to that 4th person on the engine company, we almost double the efficiency of that company with the operations that we undertake. So we have a current staffing plan. Every year we try and make incremental improvements, but certainly staffing is one of the most important things that long-term, again, we can address. And I do have, when those personnel are not actively fighting fire, my expectation is they are out in the community doing that very important fire prevention work that we also talked about.
Okay, thank you. So that's only 2 fire trucks? So how many additional firefighters would we need to move all these units to 4% staffing instead of 3?
So we've identified 18 positions, which would be 6 additional companies that we think are critical. But ultimately, all 20 of our other companies would like to do 4-person staffing. So minimum is 18. Ultimately, the ideal build-out would add 60 additional personnel on the floor, and then this associated support staff.
Okay, this is so helpful. I mean, again, I'm really proud of the investments you're making. I think they continue to be top priority in terms of what we do to keep our community safe. I think you all are doing just a fantastic job of, doing everything you can and coming to us when you need support. I think we've made some really important investments, especially in our night flying helicopter and a lot of big important investments. But I think this is really helpful, at least for me, as we look forward and kind of thinking about, potentially the need, if we were really going to be at the top of our game, potentially 60 more staff would be kind of ideal. Looking at, 6 to 7 vehicles that need to be replaced just to maintain operations, and those are pretty expensive. Looking at those minimum of 4, maximum sort of 10 stations that we need to upgrade or replace. So that's a lot of investments. It seems like we've got to just, plan ahead and make sure that we're looking for sources of revenue investing in 911 response and keeping our community safe. Do you have anything to add?
So Ross, I certainly appreciate all the support. One thing I do want to add is really important to me is, the fire department gets a lot of the attention on this, but I do want to reflect on the totality of the county response. My partners that are here with me, but we think about everybody in the county that is going to respond. Department of Animal Services, you look at the public health department with the impacts of smoke to our vulnerable populations, county environmental health dealing with the possible hazardous materials, our planning and development services as we look at if we have losses. And so I do want to highlight our entire county team and how much your department has that we routinely talk about wildfire response, not ahead of time, but what are we going to do when we have a catastrophic fire? We have to have that team ready to go to quickly look at getting our communities back. So I felt I would have been remiss today if I didn't reflect on the totality of all of the county departments that play a role in this.
Always a team player too. Thank you. Super Giant.
I just want to thank you and all the people that put the plan together and are executing the plan on behalf of my constituents. Thank you for the great work that you do. We appreciate it each and every day.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to make a motion to receive the presentation. Here we have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote.
And Chair Lawson records that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors and president voting aye.
Okay, thank you all so much. We're going to give folks a chance to get organized. We have our next item is Wednesday, item 3. This is socially equitable cannabis program and the ordinance with certification of final program environmental impact providing for the city of and we will begin with a presentation from the county team, and go on to public comment, and then we'll have board discussion.
Good morning. Starting in 2021, we had 5 touch points with the board regarding the social ethical cannabis program. Over that time, we analyzed a series of program options. In January of 2026, we received the last stretch on how to finalize the project to return today. During the course of the project, we held nearly 300 public meetings. We prepared a program environmental impact report that received and responded to over 350 public comments. If adopted today, the socially equitable cannabis program will go live this October for equity applicants, and all applications will be open to the general public 3 years later. The first component of the socially equitable cannabis program is the social equity program, which is led by the Office of Equity and Racial Justice. The goal of the social equity program is to ensure that the communities that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs have equitable opportunities to participate in the cannabis industry. The second component of the proposed regulatory requirements are revisions to the county's regulatory code and zoning ordinance, which state where cannabis facilities can be located and how they operate. The board previously directed the development of a local program that aligns with state requirements. The third component of the program is the Program Environmental Impact Report, or PEIR. The board directed the development of a PEIR to create a streamlined environmental review process for future applications. And the fourth component includes developing procedures and fees to issue the licenses and permits to run a cannabis facility. 2 hearings are required to adopt the SECP. Today is the first hearing, and the board is requested to certify the Program Environmental Impact Report, which includes the CEQA documentation, adopt the zoning ordinance amendments, including adoption of the board policy, introduce the regulatory code and social equity ordinance amendments, and permitting fees.
Staff will compare some main components that the board considered and provided additional in April 2024. The social equity eligibility criteria tiers, minimum 51% social equity ownership requirements, a 3-year time frame for social equity businesses to open prior to non-social equity businesses, licensing ceiling for cannabis storefronts, 25 total storefront licenses, and no ceiling for other licenses type. And lastly, minimum 50% storefront retail licenses reserved for social equity businesses. In January 2026, the board provided further direction on community equity contribution program, which was also included in the social equity ordinance. This program allows businesses to provide a community benefit where the cannabis business is located and receive a matching grant in return. The Community Equity Contribution Program encourages cannabis businesses to give back to their local communities by supporting neighborhood improvement projects. After completing an approved community benefit project, businesses may receive a county matching grant up to $5,000. Community benefits may include, but will not be limited to, the improvement of parks, community art murals, tree planting, community gardens, historical place art, or signs and bike racks.
Next, staff will provide an overview of the program environmental impact report, or PEIR. The board directed the preparation of a PEIR to streamline the environmental review for future applications. The draft report and draft ordinances were released for a 60-day public review period in 2025. The final report, including responses to public comment, was released in March of 2026. The PEIR evaluated 5 project alternatives. The proposed project is Alternative 2, which aligns with state standards and previous board direction. The final report identified that the proposed project could cause significant and unavoidable impacts to aesthetics, noise, air quality, specifically odor, which would result in similar significant and unavoidable impacts. However, Alternative 4, which would not have the same odor impact. The PEIR identified mitigation measures to minimize potential environmental impacts, which were outlined in mitigation monitoring and reporting program for MMRP. Environmental impacts may still occur even when all measures are applied. Next, staff will provide an overview of the amendments to the zoning ordinance. Consistent with the board's direction, staff has drafted amendments to the zoning ordinance to establish where and how cannabis businesses to include cultivation, retail dispensaries, non-front retail, otherwise known as delivery, consumption lounges, temporary events, manufacturing, distribution. These could locate in certain agricultural, commercial, and industrial zones and must be located at least 600 feet from schools, daycares, and youth centers. The draft zoning ordinance requires cannabis facilities to comply with performance standards related to lighting, fencing, noise, odor, and water usage, among others. Some standards apply to certain activities to address impacts that are unique to those facility types. For example, cultivation projects are required to perform all processing of cannabis within an enclosed structure to minimize odors. Next, staff will provide an overview of the updates to the regulatory code and the proposed board policy for unlicensed cannabis enforcement. In terms of regulatory code amendments, this update expands the licensing and operational requirements for cannabis businesses to include 2 new additional activities: consumption lounges and temporary cannabis events. It also adds clearer language around the terms and conditions that apply to cannabis business licenses. This helps to ensure applicants and license holders better understand their responsibilities and the standards they must meet. Finally, the updates to county regulations into alignment with current state requirements, ensuring the local ordinance reflects the broader regulatory framework for cannabis businesses. As directed by the board, this update ensures sufficient minimum funding is maintained for enforcement related to unlicensed cannabis facilities. Any necessary funding would be addressed through the normal annual budget process for planning and development services in the sheriff's office, with specific allocations for code compliance and the sheriff's marijuana enforcement team. Next, we will provide an overview of the local costs applicants can expect when establishing a cannabis facility. Each facility must obtain a local land use permit, a local cannabis business license, and any required state licenses. The associated fees support staff review of the application to determine whether the facility meets required zoning, development, operational, environmental, and repairs, odor management, lighting, security, site plans, meeting compliance with any of the mitigation measures from the PEIR, and any site improvements required for a proposed location. Local land use permits are deposit-based. Applicants will need to obtain either a zoning verification permit or an administrative permit, depending on the type of facility. Zoning verification permits are ministerial and are approved if the project can meet objective zoning criteria. These permits would require an initial deposit of $5,391. Administrative permits are subject to discretionary review and require a deposit of $7,815. These permits, local business licenses are fee-based and will range from $22,000 to $25,000. The licenses are one-time approvals and only paid once. Once an applicant has secured all of the necessary permits, they would then need to renew their local cannabis business license annually. Renewal fees during the fiscal year have decreased and will cost $18,536.
We received feedback from diverse stakeholder groups gathered through more than 295 outreach meetings since 2021. Regarding the environmental analysis, some community groups and members of the public raised concerns about odor impacts, particularly from outdoor cannabis cultivation. They emphasize the need for stronger odor control standards or a prohibition of outdoor cultivation. Industry advocates, social equity applicants, and Farm Bureau asked to narrow the list of sensitive uses and buffers. They expressed concern that a broader definition of sensitive receptors would significantly reduce the number of viable business locations. In contrast, community groups, some community members, and public health advocates supported additional sensitive uses and expanded buffers. They also raised concern about the potential over-concentration of outdoor cultivation and mixed-light or greenhouse facilities. Public health advocates who oppose cannabis use altogether raised broader concerns about addiction, mental health, and youth drug prevention. They also raised concerns about impaired driving related to cannabis consumption at lounges and events. Some community planning sponsor groups submitted letters raising concerns about aesthetics, lighting, over-concentration, buffers, temporary events, odor, and public health and safety. Some supported moving forward with a program that limits cultivation, while others opposed the program altogether. On April 10, 2026, the Planning Commission recommended that the Board of Supervisors adopt proposed projects with several modifications that go beyond the state minimum standards, including a prohibition on outdoor cultivation, an expanded 1,000-foot sensitive use buffer with the addition of public parks, public trails, and places of worship as sensitive uses, and allowing informational and educational events at cannabis facilities. The Planning Commission recommendation varies from the staff recommendation. If the Board chooses to implement the Planning Commission recommendation, additional hearings could be required to consider updated ordinances and CEQA documentation. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors adopt a proposed program which allows all cannabis facility types and requires a 600-foot buffer from schools, daycares, and youth centers. This action includes adoption of the final environmental impact report CEQA findings, the statement of overriding considerations, mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and certification of the final PEIR. Adoption of amendments to the zoning ordinance, approval of the introduction of amendments to the regulatory code for cannabis licensing and for the social equity program, approval of introduction of amendments to the Planning and Development Services fee schedule, and adoption of Board Policy B76. If the Board takes action, the actions recommended today, then on September 2nd, the Board will take action to adopt amendments to the regulatory code and to the fee schedule. If adopted, the program will be open for applications in the fall of 2026. This concludes staff's presentation. We're available for any questions.
Okay, we'll now go to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We do have 54 total requests to speak, 41 individuals in person, 13 requests to speak by phone, and we also have 2 group presentations. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 174 e-comments on this item. 137 were in favor, 28 were in opposition, and 1 was in neutral. For any individuals that request to speak on this item by phone, you can please download the conference line now that using the instructions that were provided to you. We will begin with in-person speakers. We do have 2 community planning group chairs that have requested to speak, so I'd like to invite forward Beth Nelson and Larissa Anderson. You will have 5 minutes each to speak since you are the community planning group chairs. And you can come forward in any order.
Good morning. I'm Beth Nelson, Vice Chair of the San Diego Planning Group. I didn't see our name up on your slide there, but we have all along the process on this item. As a member of the Planning Group, I view this issue through both land use and public health lenses. Our plan is about expanding cannabis operations into the unincorporated area. We don't want it, and we didn't ask for it. Last January, we asked this board to approve option 1, no expansion into our areas. As backup, we asked for no outdoor cultivation and certainly no consumption lounges or special events that could put impaired drivers on our dark, narrow back roads. Our letter submitted yesterday details our objections. Strong odors, especially from outdoor grilling, effects on people and animals, health and safety concerns, increased crime, and limited county enforcement resources. As a pharmacist, I recognize valid medical uses for cannabis, which has been decriminalized in California. It's already available for legitimate medical purposes, including cancer patients and veterans with PTSD. That is not the issue here. The issue is expanding cannabis businesses into communities that do not want them. Today's cannabis is a supercharged version of marijuana, much as OxyContin was the supercharged opioid 3 decades ago. A recent local headline confirms the concerns. New UC San Diego marijuana study affirms drugs' negative effect on youth. With use rising nationwide, health practitioners are seeing more heart attacks and strokes, lung cancer, psychotic disorders, hospitalizations, and other harms. Given these risks to our kids, why would responsible leaders promote more access rather than restrict it? As one speaker at your January hearing said, giving away their motive, quote, I see revenue opportunity. Approving expanded access to this substance for profit is like handing the keys to the county to the Sackler family. Their motive was revenue, not public health. That comparison is uncomfortable, but the concern is similar. Revenue should not come before public health. Mistake. From a land use, public health, and broader societal perspective, why are we expanding access? I was a young pharmacist when new opioids like OxyContin were approved in the 1990s. They were promoted as an improvement in morphine. Became widely used and illegally. We know the result. An epidemic of addiction, millions of overdose deaths, and countless downstream victims, including people now caught in homelessness and other crises that require millions in taxpayer dollars to address. Why expand access to another dangerous substance that may create more problems for a future board to address in 10 or 20 years? Funding expanded drug access on one hand and the cleanup of its consequences on the other makes no sense to me. I don't know if option 1, no expansion, is still on the table. In January, when it wasn't brought back here, we were told it would reappear. If that option is still available, that is our preference. If it is not available, please choose the most restrictive alternative. Prohibit outdoor cultivation, consumption lounges, and special events. Thank you for listening and considering all perspectives on this difficult topic. Appreciate your time.
Good morning, honorable supervisors. My name is Larissa Anderson. I am the chair of the Bronzeville Community Sponsor Group, and I am the president of the Bronzeville Unified School District Board of Trustees for the 6th consecutive year. In January, we asked you to pause. In April, we showed the Planning Commission where this program becomes difficult to defend. Today, the record reveals something more fundamental. The socially equitable cannabis program is neither socially equitable nor environmentally responsible. My father died of cancer exactly 3 months ago. During his last year, medical marijuana helped restore his appetite and manage his pain. I am grateful it was available to him. The San Diego County Planning and Sponsor Groups united in opposition to the SCCP are not demonizing cannabis. Rather, we question where, how, and at whose expense we industrialize it. Gerd Road at Highway 76 sits at the precise intersection of my two public roles and exposes the profound inequity built into this program. Bronzeville Unified owns 50 acres of A70 land held for public education since 1960s. For more than half a century, that land has been set aside to support children's education. Our district needs a new comprehensive secondary campus. Approximately 1,200 new homes are being built within Bronzeville Unified School District's 88 square miles that spans from Paula to Pendleton, while our current 17 acres grades 6 through 8 combined secondary campus is overwhelmingly portable and insufficient. A school must prove that traffic works, evacuation works, water is available, environmental impacts are addressed, infrastructure is funded. We cannot fast track a school. But while BUSD would never authorize it, the Gerd Road property's A70 designation would create a clearer, faster pathway for industrial cannabis cultivation than for public agency development. The absurdity of that land use prioritization under SCCP is mind-boggling. Imagine a BUSD campus on Gerd Road finally built through a public-private partnership because passing a bond is difficult in our community. Students learn, student athletes compete. Families gather for performances, agricultural programs, and graduations. Nearby, an industrial cannabis operation was entitled first because the county created a faster pathway for cannabis than for educating our youth. We spend public money teaching students to avoid substance use and addressing addiction and mental health. Then, under the banner of equity, we normalize daily proximity to industrial production of the substances we profess to keep them away from. Is that what equity looks like for rural children? Same land, same groundwater, same roads, same wildfire conditions, different standard. That is hypocrisy codified as land use policy, and the harm extends beyond schools. Our agricultural lands continue producing food and flowers. Organic farmers should not have their crops, soil, water, or organic integrity threatened and undermined by pesticide drift or contamination. Groundwater does not recognize parcel lines. Bonsall and other unincorporated communities should remain multi-generational communities rooted in agriculture and equestrian heritage and supported by schools, roads, fire protection, water systems, and public facilities that healthy communities require, not extraction zones. County staff stated publicly that approximately $5 million has been spent developing this program. $5 million they explain as bureaucratic momentum. It cannot transform a fundamentally flawed program into sound policy. Do not compound that sunk cost with decades of enforcement, litigation, and environmental remediation. Your agenda asks you to acknowledge significant environmental effects and adopt a statement of overriding considerations. After hearing the public, the Planning Commission in April recommended significant changes. Your agenda today acknowledges the additional CEQA documentation and additional hearings that would be required if you continue down this path. The clearer choice is available today. Reject the SCCP and choose the no project alternative. Bonsall Unified and the sponsor group have taken formal unanimous positions against the project, and last week we reconfirmed that no project alternative. We are not asking you to make this program marginally less damaging. We are asking you to reject it. A larger setback does not cure an indefensible premise. Indoor cultivation does not eliminate groundwater demands, pesticides, energy consumption enforcement, or industrialization of agricultural land. Mitigation does not turn extraction into equity. Do not certify this EIR. Do not adopt the statement of overriding considerations. If this program cannot withstand the same CEQA scrutiny required of a school, hospital, or other public serving use, it is not legally defensible and should not advance. The 3 supervisors who advanced this SECP in January, each of you has prioritized safeguarding our environment in your public role. We ask you to extend that to the rural backcountry as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have 2 group presentations now. We will begin with the first. You will have 10 minutes to address the board. All 3 members of the group must speak during that 10 minutes. So please self-regulate your time on the podium. And then let me go ahead and invite forward the first 3 individuals. That is Dory Rattray, Dr. Matt Matthews, and Chris Barber. And then just as a reminder, each person in the group may speak for no more than 4 minutes. So as you come forward, if you could please state your name and podium before you begin your presentation.
I'm Dory Rattray. I'm the Valley Center Planning Group Chair. I'm actually here to...
I don't see all the members.
It's not Chris Barber, it's Captain Limit.
Oh, okay.
That was the correction.
No worries.
I apologize. Just to say, so Planning Group Chair, Valley Center community, we are here to also represent a number 1 option, no cannabis in our market. Over 500,000 residents call the unincorporated San Diego County home. And for years, our communities have fought to protect the rural lifestyle, our environment, our public safety. Today, we must state the fundamental truth that commercial cannabis businesses do not belong in our unincorporated areas at all. Unincorporated regions are They are defined by winding 2-lane roads, limited water speed, sheriff, and fire protection. Introducing an intensive and distribution of strains, these gradually resources to a breaking point. Furthermore, our rural communities lack the public transit, sidewalks, and municipal policing necessary to manage heavy traffic, public events associated with cannabis, and placing these operations here in the unincorporated creates an unacceptable risk of impaired driving, which we've seen a lot of, on unlit, remote roads, threatening the safety of our children, especially mine, and seniors and families. Large-scale commercial operations, which we have a lot of, also bring intensive odor, noise, pollution, high energy demands, which is a given, and heavy water usage that disrupts the quiet agricultural lands and wildlife habitats. Unincorporated residents are expected to shoulder 100% of these environmental and safety burdens, while the benefits are centralized elsewhere. True equity and regional preservation can be achieved properly by restricting commercial cannabis operations exclusively to the incorporated cities and municipalities. Cities possess the commercial infrastructure, transit networks, and full-time municipal services required to manage these businesses safely. Unincorporated San Diego County is not the industrial zone. We urge the board to listen to 500,000 of us who live and exist. We do not want cannabis in the market.
Good morning again. The SECP program will negatively impact land use equity, environmental risk, public costs, public health enforcement. Importantly, the county has failed to demonstrate that a new commercial marijuana industry is in the interest of the public that you were elected to serve and responsible to serve. This program should not impose a controversial on residents who have no municipal government of their own. Residents of unincorporated cities can elect a city council who decides whether marijuana businesses belong in their communities. Residents of unincorporated areas have board of supervisors making those land use decisions for them. Their strongest elected supervisor voice has been Supervisor Desmond, but he's been largely ignored and circumvented. The 3 supervisors who primarily have driven this have little to no unincorporated areas in their districts. These businesses will be concentrated in primarily low-income communities where the people cannot be completely mitigated. At the county's January 26th board meeting, with safeguards, odor, noise, groundwater would remain significant and unavoidable. That should have been a stop right there. If the county's own environmental document says impacts remain significant and unavoidable, why is the approval of the program necessary? How then is it appropriate to approve this program? When significant CEQA impacts have been identified, alternatives should be considered. The findings argue against approval of the project altogether. The impacts can be mitigated is not the same as the impacts will not occur. Groundwater is limited and precious resource in the San Diego unincorporated communities. If the county's true purpose is to reduce barriers for people who were disproportionately affected by cannabis criminalization and facilitate equity, there are far better ways to do that. They do not have to expand the industry. They can provide them grants, workforce programs, business training, fee assistance, expungement assistance, loans, scholarships, assistance entering existing legal industries, economic development programs unrelated to cannabis. Social equity should not become a justification for weakening ordinary land use protections and furthering risking the lives of those already involved in drugs. Thank you for letting me speak.
I'm Dr. Matt Matthews. I'm the chair of the Cannabis Subcommittee in the Valley Center Planning Group. And I also possess a DEA license and I'm very familiar with the workings of the Drug Enforcement Agency, their regulations, and the reporting process involving with scheduled compounds like THC is on the fast track or in litigation right now to become a Schedule 3 drug under the jurisdiction of the Food and Drug Administration and under the enforcement of the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency. Anyway, you can't really talk about cannabis without talking about the drug THC. THC is the point of cannabis and the reason that it is used. And so I'd like to kind of review that the County of San Diego has removed cannabis under the enforcement of the Sheriff's group, County Sheriff. Has moved it as a code enforcement responsibility. This is absurd as cannabis attracts a drug element. I'm sorry, a drug, maybe even a criminal element, and that we see in other communities where crime rises as cannabis is introduced and distributed. So as far as the Drug Enforcement Agency and the Schedule 3, cannabis dosages are being decided. The form in which the drug is managed is being decided. The chain of possession from manufacturer to distribution is being decided. All of this will be under the jurisdiction of the Drug Enforcement Agency. And so the business of having dispensaries looks like it's an obsolete idea, and that the board here needs to understand that the Drug Enforcement Agency in a Schedule 3 cannabis product, THC, will not be able to be distributed in that way. It will be distributed by medical doctors, prescription, and distribution through a DEA pharmacy, which are licensed like all other pharmacies. So I believe that the social equity idea is well intended. I think everyone who introduces policy has good intentions. But with the legality of THC influx, we don't know what those concentrations of drug will be in, say, beverages or foods, or if the safety studies will even support that. And so my recommendation, if you listen, is to table this here because we don't have legal clarity on the drug THC. We don't know if what is passed today will even be allowed in federal law. And even those that grow cannabis and possess it in a chain of possession will even be allowed because of say, live scan, background checks, and these sort of screening processes that don't allow drugs to be managed by certain people with certain criminal pasts. And that is a concern to me. So I believe that right now we do not have the information to make a legal, logical, legal sort of a code at this
I'm
point.
going to pause your time, but that's your 4 minutes. Your group has 45 seconds left. Either one of the other members can speak. You have to use your 4 minutes.
So I think what he's trying to say is right now, it's in federal hands, and so it really, for you to make a decision on this, when it's not decided at a federal level, you're making a decision that it may be impossible, it may create more lawsuits for you. So I think if you think about that, that might be a problem for this board going forward, because you're going to make a decision on allowing businesses that may not be legally allowed, and then they're making investments that may be closed. I mean, all this money that they have to spend to create something, when legally it's going to be in the hands of the pharmacist. And I don't think you thought about that part. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to call the next group forward. That group consists of Eileen Delaney, I believe it's Janine Donner, and Stephanie Baxter. And then the same rules apply. As a reminder, each person in the group may speak for no more than 4 minutes. Each person in this group has to speak, and you will have 10 minutes to address the board.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. I just want to make it clear, this is a presentation on behalf of the Fallbrook Planning Group. I'm Eileen Delaney. These are my colleagues, Stephanie. The Fallbrook Planning Group continues to be opposed to this program. It's being forced on all of us in the County of San Diego and the unincorporated areas. We'd like to reiterate that the opposition is not about the social equity portion, but rather about the issues, the land use issues, which would allow outdoor marijuana grows and large commercial cultivation close to residential areas. We've been speaking about fire this morning. You imagine we're a high fire area. Having a fire that goes through cannabis grows could be a real interesting event. We remain extremely concerned about the harmful environmental impacts, which have been well documented in other regions that have legalized cannabis cultivation. And my colleague Stephanie will give you more information about that in our position. Our neighbors in South County already contend with horrible smells, odors, and environmental impacts from pollution caused by the Tijuana River. Is this what's in store for us? Will we have to contend with odors and negative environmental issues caused by cannabis? Cannabis is not a crop that is easily compared to other agriculture. Most other crops don't produce strong, unpleasant odors that can disrupt daily life and our outdoor activities that we love in the unincorporated areas. Some of our crops have wonderful fragrances, like citrus and oranges, for instance, that produce the sweet fragrance of orange blossoms. We certainly won't have that with cannabis. All this being said, it appears that the majority of supervisors who live in cities may not be familiar and understand the rural lifestyle and why we oppose the aspects of this program. We hope that you will really listen and pay attention. And pay attention.
Yeah.
And pay attention. Thank you. Appreciate your attention to our concerns. Our Planning Commission recommended that the number of sensitive areas be increased to 1,000, to others that were originally recommended. cannabis cultivation be required to be indoor only, and the setbacks be 1,000 feet, like the city of San Diego. In the for the benefit of everyone, we reluctantly would support those recommendations. This at least gives us some protections. We ask that you do the same and at least support your appointed planning commissioners' recommendations. The residents of the unincorporated areas, which measure over 500,000, and the representatives of the planning and sponsor groups who strongly oppose this. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jeannie Milner. I'm the second vice chair of the Baldwin Planning Group, and I'm also the chair for the Cannabis Ad Hoc for the Baldwin Planning Group. The thing that I, again, want to make very, very clear is we are not speaking today on licensing. That is not our portion. We are speaking only on the land use. And I just want that to be really, really clear to everyone here. The impacts on our communities include lounges and events, more impaired drivers on our dark windy roads, which are mostly private, limited law enforcement to address the more impaired drivers, and there's no testing available when someone under the influence is actually stopped. We have no ride-share services in unincorporated areas for people going to lounges and events. They're going to get in their cars and drive. That's a huge concern. Our existing rural infrastructure isn't equipped to handle an influx of large-scale commercial operations, such as 4-day events. This again includes law enforcement as well as fire department. Taxes do not go into the unincorporated communities. It goes to the general fund. So I hear people saying, well, it will help our communities. It doesn't really help our communities at all with taxes. We are against outdoor grows. We're asking for indoor grows only. It will help, but not eliminate the odor, the impact on soil and water. Indoor grows will still impact areas because of lighting, noise of fans, and odor when facilities are what they call burnt, but it will help slow that down. Outdoor grows have historically impacted large communities. The example is Santa Barbara County. There were over 4,000 odor complaints over a span of time. There was a class action suit brought and a class 1. They are now redoing their entire cannabis program because outdoor grows simply do not work for the community. It impacted schools, restaurants, businesses in a very negative way. Ag zones and residential zone are right up against each other in unincorporated areas. That means that most of us live right against ag zones, and we would potentially have commercial grows right in our backyards, literally. Lighting, security, and crime are huge also concerns. We're hoping, we don't like this at all. Number one is always what we wanted. We're hoping that you follow the suggestion of the Planning Commission and that you really take this to heart because it's really, really important for 500,000 residents of this, what could happen with our land use. I appreciate your time.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Stephanie Baxter, and I want to step back from cannabis and ask a bigger question regarding the environmental double standards that are being represented here. What exactly is the county's vision for our unincorporated communities is the question we should all be asking. Because your own policies seem to be working against each other. Let's have a look. Your climate action plan calls for preserving agricultural lands, conserving water, and protecting biodiversity. The Mission Resource Conservation District, whose directors you appoint, work to conserve soil and water, support ag, and protect the Santa Margarita and San Luis Rey River watersheds. Your general plan calls for preserving communities, agriculture, open space, and rural character. And you're investing public dollars to revitalize Fallbrook and other downtowns, attracting residents, businesses, and tourism while preserving small town character. We want that vision. But simultaneously, you're proposing commercial cannabis cultivation in A70 and A72 rural, residential, and agricultural lands under a program whose own environmental analysis identifies the significant and unavoidable impacts that we heard from the presentation earlier. How can these policies coexist?
Why is rural character something to protect in the general plan and market through revitalization, but something negotiable when approving socially equitable cannabis? A70 and A72 are not empty spaces on a zoning map. People live there, people farm there, wildlife moves through there, water flows through there. Social equity might be a legitimate goal, but it cannot exist in a vacuum. So which county vision are we supposed to believe? Please don't adopt one county policy that undermines everything the others are spending public resources to protect. Environmental protection cannot be a county priority only when it's politically convenient. Our rural communities should not be environmental sacrifice zones for a program the county has acknowledged will harm the environment in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. And that completes the group presentation. So now we will move to the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You will then have 1 minute to address the board. If you could please please start by stating your name for the audio record. And I will be calling individuals in groups of 3, so please listen for your name. I'd like to invite forward the first 3 individuals. So it's Shelby, Albert, I believe it's Pepe, and Jean Duffy.
Good morning. My name is Shelby, and I'm a Public Health Research Coordinator and a board member of the San Diego chapter of Americans for Safe Access. I urge the board to adopt the EIR and code ordinance for the socially equitable cannabis program with several notes on the proposed amendments. First, buffer distances should match the state's 600-foot minimum and its own definition of sensitive uses. Extra buffers, like places of worship and trails, make it harder for licensees to operate and open the door to bad faith actors. A strong legal market is what actually protects against youth access and untested products. Second, please eliminate the outdoor cultivation ban. Outdoor cultivation has deep roots here, and regulating them means leaving large-scale illegal grows unchecked. Third, I support allowing educational events, as education helps consumers use cannabis more safely. Thank you.
Hi, board members. My name is Albert Pepe. I am a social equity C participant. I completed all the necessary classes and received a certificate of completion. Today's cannabis is legal and it's generating jobs, businesses, and revenue. It's only right that we use a moment to strengthen our county economically. I strongly urge the board to move forward with the recommendation to align local eligibility requirements with the state's requirements without adding unnecessary barriers. A social equity program should open doors for people, not create new obstacles to overcome. Let's get this right and give the people a genuine opportunity to participate in the future of this industry. Through the courses, I have learned about real-world challenges that will help me make a responsible business decision and comply with the laws and regulations. I have continued my education, learning more about operating a business, regulatory compliance, government, environment, industry standards, networking, and investor opportunities. Social equity participants completed the classes and courses and are ready to be leaders in the cannabis industry.
That's
They're one of the best cannabis business entrepreneurs in the world. Thank you.
Just a reminder again, it's 1 minute. I'll invite a few of the next speakers forward, Heather Gawley and Damian Martin, if you could please line up on the arrows.
Hello supervisors and staff, and thanks again for this opportunity to speak to you today. Again, my name is Jean Duffy. I'm the mother of 3, the grandmother of 3, the wife of a middle school principal, and a former youth leader and teacher. I've seen the devastation to our young people caused by marijuana use to their motivation, to their mental and physical health, and to their futures. As a 34 resident of unincorporated San Diego County, I cannot stress enough the negative outcomes we will see if you move forward with plans to allow marijuana cultivation, distribution, manufacturing, commercial sales, and consumption lounges in our rural areas. An attempt to pass this off as a solution for social justice issues is manipulative and misleading. That's just putting lipstick on a pig.
Marijuana commercialization perpetuates racial injustice, it doesn't reduce it. I raised my children in Julian. We moved there to enjoy nature, recreation, and spaces and apple trees. It's a hub for small mom and pop shops in a historical area, a tourist destination, not a destination for high-grade, high-THC destructive product.
Good morning, supervisors. I am Dr. Heather Ghaly, Superintendent of the Barnsley Unified School District, and I'm here to urge you to select the no project alternative and not move forward with the socially equitable cannabis program. As superintendent, my first responsibility is to the students we serve. Our schools are part of a rural, unincorporated community, and decisions like this have real implications for the environments where our students live, learn, and travel each day. There are simply too many unanswered questions about the potential cumulative impact of this program on our students, our schools, and our community. When school districts seek to develop land or build facilities for children, we face extensive requirements, reviews, restrictions, and safeguards. We understand why. When children are involved, the standards should be high. So why should the standard of caution be any lower here? We should not move forward and discover later that the safeguards were insufficient. Our students should not bear the consequences of that uncertainty, and I urge you to select the no project alternative. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is coming forward. I'd like to invite forward the next few speakers, Cesar Javier and Monica Hazel. If you could please line up on the arrows.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, Board of Supervisors, staff, and the public. My name is Damian Martin, co-founder and attorney for Catalyst Cannabis Co. Catalyst is the second largest cannabis retailer in the state of California. And quite proudly, I'd like to highlight that we operate a store in the city of San Diego, and then most importantly, we operate 6 social equity cannabis businesses in the dispensaries in the city of Los Angeles. It's my proudest accomplishment in the cannabis space. My wife is one of our social equity partners. So when you think about this, you further delay this program, I want to highlight the human element here. Every one of these social equity applicants have a powerful story about the war on drugs. Further delaying this program is just going to feel like a continuation of the war on drugs. It will be a real punch in the gut. On the buffers proposed by the Planning Commission really just going to kill the purpose of the program. They're so restricted within cities that have, or municipalities that have buffers like that, you basically can't find real estate. So what's going to happen if those buffers are approved, the social equity applicants can't find real estate, prices will go up, it'll kill the purpose of the program. Please approve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Monica Hazel. I'm the superintendent of Fallbrook Elementary School District. 80% of the families we serve in our Fallbrook in-town schools are experiencing poverty. Our community has fewer resources and less political power to influence decisions that affect where our children live and grow. If we want to truly establish a safe buffer to protect our children, we need to increase the buffer well beyond 1,000 feet. 1,000 feet is less than 1 lap on a traditional field. That is not a buffer, it's right next door. To put it into perspective, our youngest children walk over a mile to school in the morning. As proposed, these cannabis operations would sit within our school boundaries. Also, this program has been advertised as socially equitable, but I'm asking for whom? Equity can not only mean economic opportunity for the cannabis industry, it must also mean protecting communities like Fallbrook that have historically carried disproportionate burdens. I ask you to oppose this program.
Call for the next 3 speakers, Gail Cantrell, Aaron Arlano, and Dorothea Flanagan. If you please line up on the arrows.
I'm Dorothea Flanagan. I wonder if your environmental review group has a real estate broker involved with giving them feedback. Boxall School District won't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting another bond measure passed to build a school next to that, I guarantee you. All of this. just amazes me. I won't have to worry about my taxes going up, will I? No parents are going to want to put their kids in that school, let alone pass a bond measure for, say, another $59 million to be next door to somebody undesirable like that.
Thank you.
You know, in the Overland Trail, I did at Bonzo, and nothing has really been said about our property values that you will single-handedly destroy the value of our property in the rural area, the lifestyle that we love, being out horseback riding and hiking and biking and boating. It's just amazing the thought of this, and the 1,000-foot setback is a moot point. If you talk to people in Weedles, which is called Weedles now, they can't come out of their homes at night because once the turbines are turned on, the scent just permeates for miles. It doesn't matter how far that setback is. 1,000 feet isn't going to make a difference when the air is permeated with the stench. And the water use, it's just ridiculous. The website said about 5. Anyway, there's over 130 resources for cannabis now.
Thank you. Call for the next few speakers, Eduardo Gonzalez and Lily Hopper. If you could please line up on the arrows.
Honorable Board of Supervisors, the character of our homes and my name is Aaron Ariano. I'm on council my entire life. What makes my community so great is the people and its character. My friends and I play in the fields and the hills where the SDCP wants to build farms, selling points, and event spaces. How can you tell our students, me, my friends, not to smoke, use drugs, or use cannabis if every single day when we walk or drive to school, we are passing stores and growers? How does that work? I urge the board, listen to the people who live here. Listen to the parents, teachers, and the neighbors. Listen to the kids. Protect our community. Thank you.
Run for supervisor.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Eduardo Gonzalez. And actually, I was one of the ones that got incarcerated back in 2008. I was one of the victims when I did have my medical license. And I just feel that, you know what, this is one big old change because it's been legalized all over the nation. And it seems like San Diego do need a lot of tax money from what I'm hearing from all the stuff that's going on here. And everybody wants to move to San Diego. I just feel that, you know, if you fix the sewer problem down in Tijuana, I mean, I've been having this dream all my life to fix that issue. And literally, you can turn that into a power plant because sewer does turn electricity. So, I mean, this is one big old chance that we're just going to blow out the window because, you know, it's not legalized correctly here in San Diego. Like when I got incarcerated and I did have my medical license. And literally, it's just like a waste of time because even Donald Trump and everybody across the nation is legalizing it. So, have a good day.
Thank you. Call forward the next few speakers, Scott Chipman and Andrew Baines. If you line up on the arrows.
You guys are always putting the cart before the horse. I think we need to address this potential move to a Schedule III drug as the post-hearing briefs have been filed 2 days ago. And so potentially in the next 30 to 90 days, there will be a decision being made, and of course an appeal can come, but I think you guys need to address that because all of this work that you're going to be doing here is for nothing. So you guys need to be following that. And if you weren't aware of that, I find that to be very negligent that you're in charge of this social equity program. And it's just interesting to be talking to drug lords who micromanage drug dealers, and people ask to be governed harder. It's interesting to see what has gone on with this industry, as prior to people coming out of the closet and exposing themselves, you could make $5,000 on a pound that now you get $500 for. What? A 90% pay cut. How crazy is that? And then the rest that you get to the government. So what do you get a pocket? 10%? Good job.
I'm reissuing a letter from Dave Evans of Civil Cannabis Industry Victims Educating Litigators. Curious that Marin, that might be considered the birthplace of 420, Marin County allows no stores, no grow sites, no distribution, no cultivation. Check out Carpinteria, 3,700 odor complaints in the little town of Carpinteria. Big mistake. This is equity, so we're going to use equity to justify giving arrested drug dealers the permission to sell more drugs. This isn't, makes common sense nonsense.
Sorry to interrupt your comments, but can you state your name for the audio record?
Scott Chipman, San Diegans for Safe Neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Andrew Benez. Now is the time. Most of the applicants here have waited 2.5 years. I've waited since 2021 for this opportunity. I've been here since day one advocating for the county's socially equitable cannabis program. I have years of lived experience and years of county training. I've done the work. I understand compliance. I'm prepared to follow the regulations and operate responsibly. By the standards you've established, I've earned this. I believe I'm the most prepared social equity applicant in this program. And I'm not asking you to lower the standards. I'm asking you to align this program with state guidelines without adding unnecessary county restrictions. We have addressed the concerns about safety, compliance, location, and community. Please don't move the finish line after I spent years preparing to cross it. Now is the time to give social equity applicants a real opportunity to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call for the next three speakers: Chris Adams, David Baxter, and Jennifer Hayter. Come forward in any order.
Hello, board. My name is Chris Adams. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm part of the social equity program as well. Like I said, I've spent 2.5 years going to very high-level, cutting-edge classes. We've had educational information to all make us stewards of these licenses that are going to be available to us. I agree with keeping in line with state regulations. I agree with outdoor cultivation, having consumption houses and temporary events. These events can be ran safely. I've worked in event production pretty much all my life and operated some of the biggest festivals, events in the world, including ones outside of this building. And these events can be ran very safely. There will be officers, medics, things like that. So we've all checked and went over lots of safety guidelines, and this is one of the most regulated industries that there is. And thank you for your time.
Supervisors, good morning. My name is Dave Baxter. I'm a farmer. I love farming. Farming's fun. It isn't easy, but as a farmer in San Diego, we know crops. We work with a lot of other farmers who grow all kinds of things, and we see what crops benefit from what the farms produce. It's not just the crops, but a lot of our crops bring people together. I mean, you guys go out to take your kids, farmers markets, different, harvest fairs, harvest festivals, those kinds of things. There's weddings, there's events, there's wine tastings. You guys love all this stuff. We all do it. We see you guys out in the community. It's fantastic. You guys obviously care about our communities, and we were just listening in yesterday and talking about PowerLink. Thank you. You guys are really supporting the community and helping us through some of the things that are being pushed into us. That being said, there's a lot coming into the unincorporated areas. We have a water shortage. You guys know this as farmers. It's very significant. Just encourage you guys to please vote for number 1, no cannabis in our unincorporated. Thank you guys.
The next year's coming forward, I'd like to invite forward Kelly Hayes and Michelle Kibo-Trim.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Hyder, and I am.
Ma'am, can you pull the mic towards you?
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Hyder, and I am Vice Chair of the Boswell Community Support Group. I had a bunch of notes prepared, but we've had so many intelligent speakers up here. I'm just going to say I'm mad. I'm really mad. This is ridiculous. Common sense is not weighing in here. We have real concerns. We're concerned for our children. We're concerned about that buffer, which is nowhere near adequate. We're concerned about the smells, the odors, the additional drug problems. Come on, guys. If this were a TV program, it'd be a comedy hour. I want to thank Superintendent Desmond. He has a no-nonsense approach to just about everything. I've been following him closely for about 4 years now. He has it right. Come on, listen to somebody who knows what they're talking about. Stop being self-serving. Follow the money. Where's the money going?
Good morning. My name is Kelly Hayes before you today as drafted. Except I do have a couple of requests for revisions to temporary cannabis events. I submitted a detailed letter that I hope you've all read. I'd like to make a couple of points. First, locations. Current restrictions go by significant properties and county-approved locations be allowed. Second, security. These events can draw up to 2,000 to 3,000 attendees. As proposed, a 1 to 35 ratio would require 57 to 85 private cars, larger than many California. Replaced with a safety plan developed alongside staff, county sheriffs, and fire department. Third, insurance. It is nearly impossible to obtain insurance for a temporary cannabis event.
Thank you. All for the next few speakers. As the next speakers coming forward, Wade Olson and Brian Gooden.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Michelle Kevorkian, and I am strongly supportive of the San Diego County Social Equity Program. For 2 years, I have prepared for this opportunity through the SEED program. I've studied compliance, regulations, business operations, financial literacy, budgeting, licensing. I have participated in mentorships, industry shadowing, marketing, and Dr. Tyrone Freeman Lunch and Learns, what we have learned directly from leading industries. I'm also a recipient of a presidential pardon in which I was invited to speak at the White House. I'm ready to operate. I understand that cannabis is highly regulated and that regulations will change, and that it is my responsibility to stay regulated and on task to keep my license. It really resonated with me today that of 85 e-comments, that only 34 were marked opposed. You gave us the tools, we did the work, we are preparing, now give us the opportunity. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for supporting cannabis equity. My name is Wade Olson. I'm a medical cannabis patient, approved equity applicant, also part of a state-funded, a study funded by the Bureau of Cannabis Control, the California Legacy of Cannabis Genetics, on the Community Advisory Board. I urge you to allow outdoor cultivation licensing because San Diego is historically a cannabis-producing region. Start treating cannabis as the specialty crop it is, and follow the state guidelines of 600-foot setbacks. To make an opportunity for delivery without a storefront for people who do not win the lottery, to still have a path to much needed retail. Also, with medical cannabis being rescheduled, to Schedule 3 means policy change for enforcement. Stop harassing medical cannabis patients. I propose making at least 50 licenses available to serve over 3 million residents and 4,500 square miles of our county. Allow events and lounges. I'm ready to open a business, so let's make it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call for the next two speakers, Brian Gooden and Andrew Sweeney.
Good
morning, my name is Brian Gooden. I'm a native San Diegan, and I just want to simplify this. In the 1920s and 30s, there was a thing called Prohibition, and that produced probably more mob bosses that the United States has ever seen. And when it was done away with and alcohol was legalized, a lot of people were able to build homes and take care of their families. With the Cannabis Equity Program, it's a similar situation. And in case you haven't noticed, there's a liquor store every corner in America. And, people are benefiting from that. So why not take this lesson from the past and apply it to the present and allow this industry to benefit not only the people, but the economy.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Andrew Sweeney. I'm a District 2 resident from Lakeside, a cannabis entrepreneur in cannabis with 25 years of industry experience, holding credentials in cannabis healthcare and medicine from the University of San Diego. I urge you to uphold your commitment to the San Diego Social Equity Program, specifically approving dispensaries and regulated on-site consumption methods. Over 140,000 residents in our unincorporated communities live under strict lease agreements where consumption and even odor is prohibited. Homeowners have private properties where they can consume legally and safely without penalty. Renters simply do not. That's a fundamental equity issue. The demographic data is clear. Homeowners skew higher in wealth, while renters represent working class families and equity qualifying residents. 9 local languages effectively make legal consumption a luxury reserved exclusively for property owners. Right now, the only legal space only a place to go to sessions where you can 40-mile or 40-minute trips, so very far.
Thank you very much. Call for the next 3 speakers: Diane Strain, Eddie Lane, and Robert Wood.
Hello, I'm Eddie Lane. I'm a resident of Valley Center, and thank you for having me here today. Look above you. There's a motto up there that says the noblest motive is the public good. You've been hearing from a lot of people here, how is this in the public's best interest, this kind of a program? When I turned 18, I was on the road. I got a speeding ticket for doing over 55. I didn't get a refund when it went to 65. Okay, so the plan is in place. You're helping out people that did go to jail. Make amends. This is not the way. There are other ways that they can help. Rather than encouraging and embracing drug abuse or drug use, even if prohibition did allow us to have liquor stores in every single corner, we don't need cannabis stores in every single corner. We now have an alcohol abuse problem in this country. We have traffic accidents all the time in Valley Center due to alcohol use. We don't need to indulge that further. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No more skunks.
Hi, my name is Diane Strain, and I live in Lawnsville, and I have 34 acres of A70 property where I grow flowers. And I would like to address something I think is maybe unintended consequences of this program, and that is green theft. All of us, farmers in Fallbrook and Lawnsville, know about people coming onto our property and stealing. And in Humboldt, for instance, I know that they have armed security to protect their pots. And does that mean then we're going to have armed security protecting some of these growers? And what does that get met with? I haven't heard anybody talk about that. And I'm so old and been around Lawnsville so long. I remember when a mushroom farm got shut down in Lawnsville that was growing indoors. They had to grow like Quonset had greenhouse things because of odor and because of runoff. I believe that was in 2000, and it was okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next speaker is coming forward. I'd like to invite forward 2 more speakers, Geronimo and Anthony Hawkins.
Good afternoon, supervisors.
My name is Robert Wood. I'm formerly incarcerated. During that time, I earned 4 degrees. Since I've been home, I earned an MBA. The reason that's relevant is because in this social equity program, we've had a combination of 2 years that include our lived experience. Prior to that, we did online learning, we did classroom learning. We've had all kinds of opportunities to learn. Not only me, but other people in this program have done what I consider the equivalent of an MBA in cannabis compliance and regulation. We stand totally ready to completely comply with everything in this cannabis industry, with all rules, laws, and regulations, to be socially responsible, to create jobs in the community, and to do everything that we need to do to make sure that this thing goes right. We have more preparation than previous business owners did. Because of social equity status, we were forced to prepare. Thank you, and I appreciate what you're doing. Please consider 50 instead of 25 cannabis licenses.
Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Anthony. I am here today in strong support of moving the cannabis social equity program forward. I also want to make one thing clear. When individuals claim to speak for our backcountry, rural, or unincorporated communities, they do not speak for everyone. There are residents, families, patients, and business owners throughout unincorporated San Diego County who support responsible cannabis regulation and social equity. Their voices deserve to be heard too. Cannabis is already legal in California. The question is whether San Diego County will create a responsible system that will expand legal access, creates economic opportunity, and gives people harmed by past cannabis policies a fair opportunity to participate. Please listen to the full diversity of the voices in these communities, reduce unnecessary barriers, and move this program forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll call for our next few speakers, William Hinks, Eduardo Batista, and Nathaniel Shelton.
Pausing before the speakers, right? Someone from my team is here looking for the San Diego Planning Group member, so if she could go back to the woman in the pink. Thank you.
Hello, Board of Supervisors. My name is Geronimo Mejia. I am a graduate of the Social Equity Program. I'm a farmer. One thing that I don't think many people realize, regulations on growing cannabis are way stricter than any other agriculture demand. So we're not going to be spraying glyphosate. There's not going to be runoff like that. Nutrient runoff is expensive. So not only is it not something that's good for the land, it's not good for the farmer. So cannabis is one of the cleaner crops to grow, besides the smell. Please move this program forward. Let's do 600-foot setbacks, and let's also get some outdoor. The first cultivated plant ever was cannabis. So this is not something new to human beings. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. My name is William Hinks. I am here today speaking in favor of the Social Equity Program and its opportunity for successful business ownership. I ask the Board to make sure the final program decisions are accessible, fair, and practical for city participants and other social equity applicants. The requirements, fees, permitting process, and timeline should not create new barriers that prevent the very people the program is intended to help obtain successful, thriving businesses. Thank you for your time.
I'm going to speak fast. Nathaniel Shelton. I'm responding to all of the straw man arguments throughout the day. Pharmacists failed to flag the overprescribing of opioids to the tune of 1 million people dying since 1999 from that drug. So a pharmacist coming in here and saying that we shouldn't be growing something that has not killed anywhere near 100 people, 1,000 people. Now, wineries and golf courses represent far heavier impact on our environment, and you all approved wineries and their use of temporary event planning in rural areas, including you, Desmond. And the environmental impacts that he was speaking of, we are all about regenerative agriculture. It's very important to us. Taking care of the land, not destroying it.
Thank you. I'll call as the next speaker tonight for all the final two in-person speakers, Charles Barnes and Russell.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Batista. I am a father of four, husband, a business owner, and a resident in District 2. Actually, live out in our community, which I haven't really heard much about. I've heard a lot about Fallbrook, Bonsall, all the areas in my county, but there is an area that's out in East County. We have about a little under 12,000 people that are in that area. And there's a lot of people that could use work. A lot of the other areas that we've discussed that we're going to build out, we have a lot of box stores, a lot of retail places where people actually can gain employment. So having something where we can have outdoor cultivation, greenhouse cultivation, things like that, in rural areas can definitely help some areas. I'm also a participant in the SEED program. I've done all the studies, all the work. I've participated in every single one of the classes, and we're definitely prepared to be contributing members to society, San Diego County, pay our taxes, and operate while we're not about lowering expectations. We're about being defined by what we can build, not by our circumstances and the issues of the past. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Charles Barnes from the San Diego SEED program. I only have one idea that I want to run by you, and that is a solution towards lowering the stigma of criminal activity attached to cannabis sales and distribution. But to do so, I'm going to need a license, so please.
My name is Russell Palmer. I'm a third generation San Diego County resident and a long-time cannabis user. When I was a youth, I played high school at Ramona High and had a major back injury. That impacted my life majorly, whereas I had a late level 12 pain most of my life. And I've been medically using cannabis most of my life to ease that pain. But access has been a problem, a massive problem. We sell eights at dispensaries, but medical cannabis users don't have access. I wrote something called the One Plant Theory, which brings on cannabis immersion therapy. We're scheduling cannabis at Schedule 3 because the federal government believes medical cannabis is viable. I come to you today after 3 years ago. I found a cannabis strain that finally healed my sciatica that did like a pulse pain for over 27 years. Think about that. Medical cannabis is viable.
Thank you. We've got one more in-person speaker, Becky Rapp. I invite you forward to the podium. And then I will call the one speaker that I called earlier, just to recall, which was Cesar Javier.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Becky Rapp, and I strongly oppose this item. When this item was brought before the Planning Commission, it was clear that residents had serious concerns about environmental impacts, public safety, and enforcement. At that hearing, the question was specifically asked, what is the official position of law enforcement on this proposal? Staff responded that law enforcement had not been questioned and there had been no official statement, but that this concern would be addressed and included in the update to the board. I've reviewed the new staff report and I do not see that promised law enforcement statement. Instead, the report tells us how much the county has spent on enforcement, which is approximately $1.6 million annually, which is important, but it is not an official statement from the Sheriff's Office about this program. So if public safety and enforcement were identified as concerns serious enough to warrant a specific follow-up, then the board should have the information before voting. I request this board require this assessment, including anticipated impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. And that, I don't see Cesar in the chamber, so we will now go to our phone speakers. Again, when it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments. We will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Although some limits are good, but the ordinance is wrong. Right off the bat, It defines cannabis as including quote, a compound, derivative, mixture, or preparation of the plant, etc., unquote. Just as a regular medicinal practice, you don't give a drug the same name as the name of its component. Politicians are good at the rename game. The Planning Commission recommends outdoor cultivation and require cannabis facilities to stay 1,000 feet from schools, daycares, youth centers, places of fields and residential areas. But it defeats the purpose when you're allowed to be sold in bars, restaurants, or stores, which would subject kids and.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Barbara Gordon. I am concerned the county's cannabis program does not adequately address the significant impact marijuana businesses could have on the community and the environment. Cultivation involves pesticides, fertilizers that contaminate soil and water. Again, it requires a significant amount of water, and while generating odor and waste that can harm surrounding communities and the environment. As a public health advocate, I'm also concerned the harms associated with high THC, including addition to emergency room visits, addiction, impaired driving, serious psychotic harm. The planning group and the community have repeatedly stated land use decisions made through the social equity program will not exist in isolation. Groundwater demands, agriculture viability, and long-term community character will be harmed.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hello. So I understand that the socially equitable cannabis program represents years of staff work and investment, but we should not fall into the sunk cost fallacy and continue with the program simply because we have already spent time developing it. It is better to stop now than to spend years dealing with consequences we could have avoided. The county's own January PEIR found that even with safeguards, impacts including odor, significant and unavoidable. Groundwater is a really big concern in rural San Diego County, where communities may depend on private wells and will recharge agricultural demands, drought vulnerability, and sensitive riparian habitat. The years already invested to face.
Peggy Walker. I wanted to quote Chairman Lawson Raymer from the UC. You question self-government isn't being captured by insider special interests. If only you practice what you preach. This board majority instead has ignored overwhelming opposition to this program in spite of documented environmental, land use, quality of life, youth health, and safety downsides and no need. Montgomery staff disturbingly claims a moral imperative for this, but that allows the applicants, even with the illegal weapon possession charges, to get licenses and the sale of, quote, every derivative mixture or preparation of psychotropic marijuana at unprecedented potency. That, with unrestricted targeting of youth, ensures addiction where craving overcomes and drives the brain. It becomes the primary brain driver.
Thank you. Your time is up. We will go to our next speaker.
Now let's go ahead and talk about what you guys work for and what the real is going on. How many of you guys are lawyers or were lawyers at one time and worked for the ACLU? Yes, wonderful. Now that we understand that the ACLU, anytime that they back someone, they win, and they do not believe in voter security, it makes sense that they would go ahead and place supervisors to go ahead and push their agenda. Ain't that right, Nora? I mean, ain't that right, Caroline Lima or Monica Montgomery Stepp? You've known us this entire time, so the legal ramifications that are happening, you guys have a background in this. You know damn well what the fuck you're doing. There is no question about it. When you choose to give me a restraining order instead of answering my questions, you know what you were doing, Carol, right? You were just taking orders from your boss. You will not go ahead and look into the non-citizens voting. Why you go ahead and fund it?
Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
My name is Elliot Lewis. I'm the CEO for Catalyst Cannabis Co. I just wanted to speak in support of the overall measures the County Board of Supervisors is moving forward. I think it's great anytime we bring safe access to patients as well as focus on communities that were impacted on the war on drugs. This overall approach that the Board of Supervisors has taken, just watching from a distance, has been one of the most effective approaches to social equity I've seen. We've been involved in a lot of social equity processes, the training, really keeping the group together and making sure that they meet all their requirements. The only thing that I would add as far as policy matters when it comes to the property buffers, look, these are huge barriers of entry, which the point of social equity is to break down those barriers and allow the landlords to exploit potential tenants to make the geographic barriers too rigorous. So I would ask the Board of Supervisors to make the zoning as lenient as state zoning and take care of all the schools, the main thing that we don't want to be concerned about, and we would hate to see folks face barriers.
Thank you. Your time is up. We will go to our next speaker.
Andres, good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Andres Rivera, Director of Catalyst Cares, the community arm of Catalyst Cannabis since the company's founding. I'm in support of item 3. This past Monday marked my 5th year with Catalyst, and every day since I've been blessed with a chance to uplift and work alongside our community. The war on drugs was not an abstract policy. It left real people carrying convictions that blocked jobs, housing, and opportunity for decades. Catalyst genuinely cares about its community, and Catalyst Cares has answered that harm directly, helping people expunge those very records one person at a time. Since we opened our doors in Kearny Mesa, we've given back to San Diego directly. Expungement clinics, Christmas tree giveaways, blood drives, and SB34 cannabis donations to military veterans. The work continues across our entire footprint, and San Diego remains the focus. The county-owned social equity program mirrors that mission. Training, mentorship, expungement help.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors and Riddle here. I'm concerned that we have been spending a great deal of county money educating applicants for a program we didn't have a policy or regulations for. Does that prejudice your vote then? Because you've already suggested that these people can only be approved in a policy and a program that we hadn't as a public address, or that we have taken a vote that we're doing that today. I worry about that. I also think, as a public health educator, if we care that much about social equity and repairing the damage that's happened in our community, so let's offer something a whole lot better than owning a pot business, for goodness sakes. These days, you can go out of business so fast. That isn't an opportunity that anyone would think is worthwhile. Let's provide small business loans and training and mentoring. Let's provide small business educational opportunities and workforce programs and other opportunities to look across the field of businesses.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Hector, and this is another chance for the slut gang of 3 to vote against the county. You know all 3 sluts are going to vote for it. The other 2 guys are going to go, no way. It's just another thing on the register of slut votes that has degraded our county. keep paying attention to them, we're counting the votes. And then, I'm not a victim of the war on drugs, both sides of the fence. But there's a lot of people also a victim of the war on poverty, which I was not a victim of. But, you gotta address the war on poverty, man, with all the food stamp guys. We could get them out working in the beach, cleaning it up. He's still trying to get a job instead of food stamps. That's what ended up with the war on poverty. Bad families, no working, just created more poverty, man. Anyway, all those guys get a vote.
Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Good afternoon, my name is Terry Ann Skelly. As a county planning group member and a concerned resident, I participated in the county-sponsored listening sessions and planning group presentations when county staff was collecting our opinions regarding its proposed SDIC overall last year. I felt that those of us who participated then were disenfranchised when SDIC report came to the Board of Supervisors in January and again today. The staff reports today do not represent what stakeholders were presented in the staff's PowerPoint or what the county's unincorporated community residents have said. Oh, the cost profiteers from outside the area desires were also in the report. It seems very unfair that this board has disregarded the stakeholders' opinions, their concerns, their passionate, sharing unincorporated.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Hey, it's true the war on drugs is a hypocritical excuse for the county to introduce drugs and profit off the market as its new cartel. The pay-to-play community benefit tax is a progressive blood money bribe, knowingly profiting on something that does harm. And we know Newsom and Democrat felons, Jesus Cardenas, have funneled pot money to political campaigns. This industry is union-driven. That's why they promote useless murals instead of requiring pot shops to pay double for recycled water, the bridge, law enforcement, fire response, rehab centers, and for property value mitigation. And why they won't restrict uses as far as possible from places like homes, schools, parks, restaurants, and places of worship. I treat this gross topic just like any other choice. Do your thing, but keep government and tax dollars out of it. Plus, equity is no longer illegal, and marijuana is in the federal air. We know this board is about union-driven dribble, but the backcountry has spoken. Environmental protection is not negotiable. We don't want it, and we didn't ask for it. Shame on the three progressive women who refuse to represent we the people.
Thank you. Your time is up. We will go to our next caller.
Hey, Consuelo here, and so, I just wanted to also mention that anything that the government declares a war on, yes, worse, so history has shown that. Okay, so also I wanted to highlight what the gentleman from San Diego for Safe Neighborhoods mentioned about Marin County, and I'm in total alignment on what he said, but what he didn't mention was the demographic of the residents there. Marin County is the third wealthiest county in California. And to put it in perspective, San Diego didn't even make the list, the top 10 list. So my point in pointing that out is because money talks, dude, seriously, and these board members, especially Tara, Monica, and Paloma, are in fact money-hungry sellouts. And they will do anything for a dirty dollar. They'll do anything to keep their social status on that political side.
Joining the Vice Chair, Mark Scott.
Thank you so much, Chair Lawson. Take a minute to breathe. Been doing good so far. But let me just start by thanking you, Davida, and the entire Planning and Development Services team. Vince, Marley, thank you so much. Cooper, thank you very much for being here. Tyrell, and also Brandon, thank you for the role that you've played over the years as we've heard the development of this program. as we are here today and making this truly important decision, opinions, because there are a lot of different experiences in this region. And I think this has amplified those various experiences. So I do want to thank members of the public who have come out. And for the most part, this really has been about a difference of policy opinion and not personal attacks for the most part. And so I have to just say that I do appreciate that. And obviously, most of you know where I stand, but I hope that you can hear me when I say thank you for taking your time to advocate for your community, because what I do feel is that you are being very sincere in that advocacy about what you believe. And I have to respect that. I don't respect the personal attacks. I think they're crazy. I think it's ridiculous that we have to sit with that every time we're on this diet. It is what it is. We're here. We have not signed up to be abused, but we have signed up to do the job, and the job is done. So I get that, but I truly want to say that I appreciate every person who comes in here and thoughtfully knows the issues and speaks from fact, from the way what they believe. And I want to say thank you for that. I think this is one thing that I've heard in this discussion and even around some consent items that we had on the agenda yesterday was an acknowledgement that socioeconomic status really can and does negatively impact our places in life, depending on where we land on that ladder. That is true. Where the conversation becomes very controversial and where there becomes a split of opinion is the role that race plays in that conversation. So we've heard, it is not about race, it's more about socioeconomic status. And, it would be a lot more comfortable place if that were true. Because that would mean that we all started in the same place. And we didn't. And there's a lot of variation in where we all started. Just because you're low income in a rural area, maybe white, doesn't mean that you start in a different place. Right? But there is variation in where we started in this entire country and the way it was built. And how that relates to this item now is because attached to cannabis has been historical, racial criminalization of cannabis. It has devastated individuals, families, entire communities for generations. And although studies show that across racial lines, the use of cannabis is very similar, the criminalization of cannabis really is where we see the difference in the racial component. And that is where the equity lens is coming from here. And it does not negate some of the other equitable issues that we have to deal with based on geography and everything else. But for this particular subject in cannabis, we saw that, for example, with Black Americans, roughly 37% of drug-related arrests were Black Americans, while representing only 13% of the population. All this, again, while showing the use of cannabis across racial lines is very similar. So we have to be clear about the war on drugs. It was never about public safety. It was engineered to discriminate. And in this country, over and over, every generation, we create another system that has discrimination embedded within it. This was one of those industries. So the policies around cannabis have been rooted in excessive punishment, targeted enforcement, been deeply racialized criminalization. And it fell heaviest on a lot of people we hear from today, and for people who have had to go through the system and have criminal records and be denied access to housing, be denied employment, education, and stability for conduct that is now legal under state law. And that's what the equity is about for this particular program. California voters recognized these injustices when they passed Proposition 64, which legalized adult use cannabis and acknowledged on a statewide level that the war on drugs caused profound and disproportionate harm. But legalization alone did not repair the damage. It simply opened a doorway. Now, I believe it is our responsibility at the county level to walk through that doorway and implement the equity that Prop 64 envisioned. The socially equitable cannabis program gives us the chance to right those wrongs. It creates pathways for people who were directly harmed, those who were arrested, jailed, or burdened by cannabis convictions to finally access economic opportunity and self-sufficiency in the very industry from which they have been excluded. And at the same time, the program strengthens our ability to address illegal cannabis activity, regulate businesses responsibly, and generate tax revenue that can support county services, infrastructure, healthcare, and behavioral health programs. The benefit of the socially equitable cannabis program overwhelmingly outweighs the cost. This program can create good-paying jobs in our unincorporated communities, support small business development, expand general purpose revenue, and most importantly, advance true equity by confronting decades of racial injustice in cannabis enforcement. We cannot afford to let the county fall behind. The economic opportunity, the social impact, and the restorative justice potential are all directly in front of us. Now is the moment to move forward. Implementing this program will empower and uplift the very communities that were harmed the most by decades of discriminatory cannabis enforcement. Adopting the staff recommendation allows the county to proceed with a well-vetted, legally defensible, and fully CEQA-aligned framework that reflects prior board direction, advances our social equity goals, maintains regulatory consistency with state law, and ensures that we can begin implementing licensing enforcement in the social equity program without any further procedural delays. And so with that, I would like to make a motion to move the staff recommendation today, which includes actions, I believe it's 1 through 6 in today's hearing that are outlined in the board letter, and the action sheet. Let me just check to make sure that's accurate. Yes, that's my motion.
Supervisor Dustin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it, and appreciate all the people also that came out and spoke, particularly people from the corporate area. I know you came quite the distance to be here this morning. I have a quick question for staff before I have some more comments. How many dispensaries do we have already that are licensed and permitted in the
Mr. Chair, there are 4 that are operating now.
There's 4. How many are permitted?
4 are permitted and operating. We have no unpermitted dispensaries operating at the present time.
Okay, I thought we had 5, but at one point in time.
At one point in time, we did have 5 permitted dispensaries. 1 did stop operating.
So we already had the, so we already have 4 dispensaries operating in the unincorporated areas. So there is access. You know, as far as the discrimination and everything else goes, I don't know that these communities are the ones that have to pay the price for that. And it's bad. We should stop discrimination anywhere and everywhere. But the community, this is more of a land use issue for me. The community should have a huge say in what goes into their communities, right? And that is allowed by state law for, distribution, cultivation, and retail sales of marijuana. And some communities have embraced it and others have not. And unfortunately, the unincorporated areas are having dispensary forced upon them with smoking rooms and the growing as well. So I'm fine with medical marijuana. If somebody wants it or needs it, or hospice, or you need it medically, have at it. And it is legal. But I do think communities should have a say into what whether they accept it or not. And I do think this has to be the most twisted and contorted term of equity that I've ever seen. If you've previously broken the law, you get to jump to the head of the line for a permit for a dispensary in the unincorporated area. And if you obey the law, you're sent to the back of the law. Now, whether you think the law was misguided, the law was not enforced correctly, it was the law. And to say that now, I mean, what laws do you think 10 years from now are going to be changed and go ahead and break those laws down? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it's the message we want to send to our children. Break the law now and get a government break later. I voted against this item every time it's been in front of the board. Today's no different. In pursuit of this twisted view on equity, the program would place all of the public safety and environmental burdens, all of it on the unincorporated areas. And I've heard zero, none, not one incorporated community wants these dispensaries. And it's not just a dispensary, it's the egregiousness of these are these consumption lounges on windy roads that aren't as lit in the unincorporated area, and people high driving on the roads. And one of the things in the impacts that I noticed is here the significant and unavoidable impacts through the program environmental impact report. Significant and unavoidable. Groundwater. Most of these people are out of wells. The drinking water is groundwater. And this has a significant, not a moderate, not some, a significant impact on groundwater and water supply for these growers. Now, I did hear from some of the growers that they're going to have to capture that, but in the environmental impact report, a significant impact of the water supply. What would be, I can't think of anything that we would approve that has a significant negative impact on our water supply. I do commend the County Planning Commission for making reasonable adjustments to their recommendations. They expanded the list of setbacks to large sensitive receptors and setbacks, prohibiting the outdoor cultivation. I think those are all steps in the right direction. However, I can't with good conscience vote to approve a program due to the serious impacts on the unincorporated areas. These communities don't want, not one community in the unincorporated area asks for more dispensaries. There's already 4 out there. Cannabis dispensaries being forced on these communities, and it's not for the greater good of the people. Just about everybody who came up and spoke was a resident in the unincorporated area. And the other people, most of the people who came up that were in favor were making money off the cannabis. This is not for the greater good of the people. It just adds money to the pockets of the marijuana industry. Which I'm not, if they want to be an entrepreneur and start a business, do it in a city or an area that wants them. There's plenty of them out there. So I'm not going to be supporting the matter here today. I don't think the unincorporated area should bear this burden. None of them want it, and the significant impact to water supply and groundwater, to me, is just a deal breaker. So, appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Chair McGarry. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that for decades, communities harmed most by cannabis criminalization carried the consequences, while others were later positioned to profit from legalization. We can't allow that injustice to continue in San Diego County. This action is needed because legalization without equity can deepen the very disparities it should help repair. A fair cannabis program must create genuine ownership and economic opportunity, not just symbolic participation. This item establishes a regulated cannabis market in the unincorporated county with a 3-year head start for social equity applicants. Half of all storefront licenses reserved for equity businesses, and a requirement that equity owners maintain at least 51% ownership. It also provides support such as training, mentorship, grants, workforce development, and help clearing eligible cannabis convictions. This matters because it gives people and communities harmed by past policies a meaningful opportunity to build businesses, create jobs, and generate community investment. We recognize the concerns about safety, odor, water use, and neighborhood impacts. Those concerns are real, and regulation is how we address them. Legal operators will face zoning rules, environmental review, inspections, operating standards, and enforcement. Approval is not the end of the work. We must track who receives licenses, ensure equity owners retain autonomy, enforce community protections, and keep this coalition involved throughout implementation. And I just want to say, I heard one of the arguments that were made about the concerns of exposure. You know, compared to alcohol, according to the CDC, alcohol is 15 to 20% more addicting than cannabis. And we have basically a liquor store every other block that are constantly, kids are constantly driving, biking, walking by. So I just want to point that out. And I also want to point out that according to the CDC, all traffic fatalities are usually 30% of traffic fatalities are caused because of alcohol. So I just want to remind the folks that try to make that argument that it is not even close to the level of addiction or to the harmful consequences of abusing alcohol we're talking about here. So with that, I'd like to second the Vice Chair's motion, and I want to thank her for all of your years of work on this issue, and I'm happy to support it.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. I just want to express my gratitude for everyone who came today and for all the letters that were sent. I've been reading many of the letters all morning, so thank you for those. And I think this is really one of those instances where there's really legitimate points of view on all sides, and really important considerations on all sides, and really grateful for people who are here to express your views and what's important to your community in a respectful manner, in a manner that acknowledges that these issues are complicated and that focuses on the issues and doesn't make it personal. So thank you again, especially for folks who've driven really far to be here. With that, I think we have a motion on the floor. Seeing no further hands.
And Chair Olson, remember that motion passes with Supervisor Anderson, Supervisor Desmond voting no, all the supervisors being present voting aye.
Okay, thank you again. It is now 12:40. We'll take an hour. We'll back to 1:40. Thanks.
Board is in recess until 1:40.
We'll be